So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whenever this is. This is Matthew Bailey alongside my critic partner in crime, Ricardo Medina.
Hello, hello, hello.
Red Mango of Red Mango reviews himself, Julien Neaves.
Wagwan popcorns.
Wow, I haven't heard that one in a long while, though. And the movie junkie for life herself, Sommerleigh Pollonais.
Bonjour, mes amis.
And this is episode 25 of Retrospect Reviews. And the reason why I say episode 25 is, well, the show we're going to talk about, if you think about it, is 2 plus 5. Ha ha ha, get it right. So anyway, we're going to talk about David Fincher's saving grace, his second feature film, Se7en, which was released, let me get the
95, I think.
Right. Yeah, September 22nd, 1995.
Yep.
And just to kick things off, right? So I'm not going to run through his entire filmography, right? But for me, this was the first time that I kind of noticed who David Fincher is. Like way back when, right? Like when I was in like primary school and whatnot. Like I was aware when Alien 3 came out, and I was like, all right, well, of course I was too young to see it. It's only years after when it showed on a station called Channel 2 and 13. I was like, oh, that's why you wasn't hearing so much about it. Okay. But I never forget when Se7en came out though in theaters, and you actually was seeing commercials for this on local TV. And back then I was just kind of blown away by that concept of 7 deadly sins, and there's this killer that's going around using that as a modus operandi to do his thing. Then I'm like even back then I was just blown away by that. And I wasn't even a big fan of horror or thrillers back then, but I just thought as a concept that was amazing, right? But it was only like a few years actually when I actually first got cable. This was before I saw Fight Club, right? When it premiered on HBO, right? Summer,
Yeah.
Ricardo and I, we talked about it on my episode, of What's the Scene, right? But yeah, even before I saw Fight Club, I saw Se7en. I think I saw it on WGN. Anybody remember that station?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Masters of cheap cable censorship.
Boy,
Yeah, some of the best.
you Mother Falcons and all that stuff. Yeah, that's why I saw the Die Hard 2s. I was the other one where no, not Snakes on a Plane. Oh gosh, Terminator 2 show there, and they censored some lines there as well. But yeah, I believe I saw Se7en there. Yes, some lines were butchered because of course, the show has language in it, right? But yeah, even back then, I was just blown away by the concept of it. I actually saw it like unrated on Stars, I believe it was, and my mind was just blown from that point on. And it was just always like a go-to show for me when it came to David Fincher. And then over the years, I just kind of grew to love it, right? And it really made me appreciate the talent that was, David Fincher, the way how he kind of approaches material in a kind of pseudo-dark fashion, you know what I mean? And this last thing I just want to say, this kind of selling myself out there one time. This arguably is his bleakest, darkest film to date, you know what I mean? And he did Fight Club, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, but the thing that just amazes me about this movie to this day, Trent, is that it's his second feature, and he got screwed over with 20th Century Fox, with Alien 3 and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's the point where he was almost ready to just give up, you know what I mean? Well, I assume he was ready to give up. And
Yeah,
yet,
he was actually. He didn't even want to do this. He's like, no.
yeah. And yet he just took a risk, you know what I mean? New Line Cinema gave him a blind, like, yeah, do this thing. And yeah, I mean, one of his best films, right? So don't want to sell myself out any further. So Ricardo, what's your history with this movie here, Se7en?
So at the time seeing this, I don't know who David Fincher was or cared. But I remember seeing this it would have been 2000 or 2001. I would have been home and caught it on Cinemax. And absolutely loved it. And then remember talking about it with some friends after, and like, oh yeah, this they saw it when it came out, blah blah blah. And yeah, that was pretty much muted. It's only years later I appreciate the work of David Fincher. It's like, all right, he did Se7en. It have one thing in this that is bother me because a lot of films followed this later, the whole bad guy I meant to get caught thing. But there is something in this movie that annoys me. I'm gonna mention it. It's the stupidest, most petty bullshit. But I'll tell you when it comes up.
Yeah, I'm curious right now.
Interesting.
Our interest is
It's
peaked.
really, here's the thing, it's really stupid and petty. It's like incredibly stupid and petty. But
All right, all right, all right. Summer, what's your history with this movie here, Seven?
Well, I can't remember where I saw it, whether it was on cable or in cinema. But again, like Ricardo, I had no clue who David Fincher was. Um, I always like these type of movies, as you guys know. But yeah, I'm thinking I saw it at home, and it was just, of course, the draw was Brad Pitt. Sorry, but
Right,
it was.
right. Yeah.
And the whole Seven Deadly Sins thing, that was definitely something I had seen similar stuff like this before, but nothing this well done, this well
Right.
executed,
Yeah.
because at its heart, it's one of those police procedural type thrillers, and they're tracking down a serial killer. It's something that, like I said, it's been done before, but nothing on this scale. And yeah, I just remember, I mean, that ending that sticks with you
Yeah.
long after the credits are gone. That was the impact it had for me, and I wanted to see more from this person. I was like, okay, if this is what he does, I am definitely on board.
Nice, nice, nice. Julian, your history with Seven.
Yeah, for me, I think it would have definitely been watching it on cable, and I think it just seeing it advertised like, okay, this looks like an interesting, psychological crime thriller. And by then Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt, I mean those are names everybody's gonna recognize. Like,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
it has some clout, you know. And then watching it is like, wow. I mean, I just love a movie where I don't know where it's going, and
Yeah.
twists after twists, and you're like, what? And you're like, dang.
Right. Yeah.
And at certain times you're watching the movie and it kind of it dips in its toe into some horror. Like, hey, wasn't
Hmm.
expected to go there. And as someone said, that ending scene will
Yeah.
stay,
Yeah.
will stay with you for the
Yeah.
rest of your life.
Right.
So yeah, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember watching it on cable and just I was like, wow, boy. Is it, as Ricardo was saying, is the kind of movie right after you see it, you it sticks with you. You keep thinking about it, and you want to go tell people like, hey, what you watch
Yeah.
Seven? You gotta go and check out
Yeah.
Seven. So I I was completely and utterly blown away by this movie.
yeah, 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 yeah. But we definitely gonna have to talk about that ending, right? But before we actually go into the review proper, I just want to mention one show that it's an easy kind of comparison, easy reference with this movie here. A little movie called Silence of the Lambs, or I should
Right.
say The Silence of the Lambs, right? In terms of the whole concept of this really psychotic killer and these really gruesome murders and all that kind of stuff. The person who kind of goes in not knowing what to expect and comes out a completely different person.
Right.
And this is kind of like dark, bleak perspective on the world itself now.
Hmm.
But really, what I think this movie was so successful, 'cause I know it had others, after this, right? Or before that, is the fact that it won, some Oscars, Best Picture of the Year and all that kind of stuff now.
Right.
So kind
Yeah.
of prove that, hey, I mean, these movies
Yeah.
drawing
Genre
crowds,
films.
drawing
Yeah.
genre.
Yeah.
Sorry, drawing
Yeah.
in critics and things. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
Yeah. It proved that genre films, could really like step up. Like one of those. It's one of these things that people are just so skeptical about, and then you'll ever so often you'll see a film like that just blow everybody away. Like, okay, well, yeah, you could do it. Why not? However.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Anything you want to say about that, Julian or Summer?
Well, no, I mean, Silence of the Lambs is one of my, I mean, top films of all time. And yeah,
Yeah,
and thinking about Seven, I'm like, hey, when you're thinking about top psychological crime thrillers, I mean, you have to have Seven and you have to have Silence of the Lambs. And I mean, what I think what Ricardo is saying, I mean, the Academy has had such a long time this bias towards drama. It's like
Yeah.
if it's not, a straight drama, I mean, we'll give you a little sound, we'll give you a little, special effects awards, but you're not best picture material. And I mean, and I love it when these films come and show. I'm like, hey, I mean, movies, what is well done, irrespective of genre.
Right.
So I love these movies that just come and show like, hey, recognize these
Mhm.
these things can be so well done and they are best picture worthy material. So yeah. Hello Clarice. I love Silence of the Lambs.
yeah. I mean, shout out to Sir Anthony Hopkins, but he
Right.
really killed it as Hannibal Lecter, right?
Right.
Right, so let's jump into the movie one time, right? So that's what I mentioned one time. The score for this is
Yeah.
done by Howard Shaw. He
Right.
has done. I mean, he's done great scores over the years, but I specifically remember like the stuff that he's done with that he did, sorry, with David Cronenberg, right? Like in the 80s, stuff like Videodrome and Dead
Yeah.
Ringers. These really like
Yeah,
haunting scores,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I could
Right.
hear some of that in this movie here, right? So for one thing, I just love how the movie opens where it's just Morgan Freeman himself, right? And in this
Yeah.
case, he plays
Somerset.
Lieutenant William Somerset,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Like it just kind of opens with him waking up in the morning,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
getting
Getting
ready to go to
dressed.
work and whatnot.
Yeah.
He doesn't just jump into some suspect getting chased or whatnot and getting killed. It's just
Right.
this is one of the lead characters, right? Um, go on, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say it's also rewatching it, stuff that you'll notice now with a little more of an experienced eye. I
Yeah.
really love I love when they do this. I love when you can you can tell us who a character is without
Right.
actually giving us a bunch of narration. And they do
Yeah.
that
Right.
so well in that opening scene because we see he's very well put together, very
Right.
organized, very neat. And then, just a little later when you get the introduction of Brad Pitt's character
Right.
Mills, who
Yeah.
is so messy looking and all his
Yeah.
clothes are rumpled and too big
Yeah.
for him,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
I
Yeah.
love
And
that. I love that.
it just tells me everything I need to
Yeah.
know right there about
Yeah. No,
what type of men these are.
yeah, no, the movie. Watching over it, I've realized how much fantastic framing it has,
Yeah,
and
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
fantastic
indeed.
fantastic foreshadowing as well. Because
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
watch
yeah.
it for the first time, you forget, and then when you watch it back, knowing the ending, it's like, yeah. All of this like leads up to something though. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah, they do a really good job with that. But yeah, the comparison between him and I just watch it back like framing. That was this great shot with him, and then you see the blood splatter in the corner.
Yes, I love
Yeah,
that.
stuff
Yeah.
like I was like, oh, okay, that real cool. Go ahead.
Yeah. But no, those are great points actually. In terms of like just Freeman stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
David Fincher movies always have great, impeccable Freeman, dread. But this one was where you really saw it, and not so much with Alien Tree because
Right.
Well, I
right?
don't even consider that his movie. Poor man. That
Yeah,
after
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
seeing what
he
happened
disowned
there,
himself from that. He
yeah, that
disowned.
wasn't his fault.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's not even a director's cut of Alien 3. There's a work print. That's what it is, right?
Right.
But anyway, back to the better movie, back to Seven, right? So in terms of just setting up the world, right? This noirish world, I like that, like just from a costume design, I mean, Somerset's outfit, the hat and the
Right.
jacket itself is very
Yeah, classic.
pragmatized, like 40s,
Yeah, classic gumshoe.
can't speed
Yeah,
stuff.
stuff
Yeah,
like that's what I like about this film. It you get a good sense. It got what 95, right? So you get a good sense of the old world and the new world because
yes,
Yeah.
they bring up
Yeah.
something that I completely forget was in this film, and it is very prescient coming up later. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But it's really how they find the killer, right? I was like, wait,
yes,
that's a real new world thing, and it's like a super topical thing that becomes an issue now. But you get the classical gumshoe vibe to everything, and the sense of transference of time, now, and
Yeah.
and the new world and the old world, that vibe now. Yeah. I'll get into we'll get into all of that. Yeah, go ahead.
right. And one thing that always drew me about the movie itself, right, as a whole, I would say the first two acts specifically, so much rain is in this movie, but
Yeah,
like
So-
you think Blade Runner have lots of rain.
right.
This movie just knocks it on the park, but like, oh my
Yeah.
god, it's just eternally dismal and dreary. It's like, wow, I love that. Yeah.
But what I like about this movie, two things. They ever say what city it is?
No, that's
No, they
next
deliberately
villain.
left it vague.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a great working fan theory, and it kind of makes sense. It's nerds like to be nerds, and the fan theory is that this is Gotham. But way before,
It looks
is like-
like Gotham. It does.
If it
Right.
is, though, yeah.
right, it's
I
Gotham.
won't be
long
surprised if the
before,
TV show Gotham, Gotham
Right,
clearly
yeah.
draws inspiration from
Yeah, it-
Seven, right?
Yeah, but it's Gotham before any of the Batman shit going down there. Like long before. So like the city melted down.
Ah,
And people,
Gotham is
these-
one
these-
city
these-
nobody
So
should
Gotham
ever.
is the
Right.
worst city ever.
and
Trey.
so the villain, the John Doe villain is like the first of these super criminals that showing up now in the storyline now because of the corruption and right.
Interesting.
Right.
Even
That's-
the way
that's-
how he thinks and how he presents himself
Right,
is
exactly.
very
Yeah.
much like a
Because
Batman villain.
I
you know what I mean?
watch back this and I just like this Nolan Rel take from this for Dark Knight though because
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even one scene in
And
particular.
Batman Begins
a
as
little
well
sli-
too.
yeah,
Well,
just a little
both, yeah,
slight
well, both
spoiler.
films,
Sorry, that's just a little slight spoiler, all right? So in the third act, right, we will talk about this motorcade that happens when the police are carrying a particular individual. They did that in Dark Knight. That was the moment where, Gordon was in the police truck and Joker
No, but
apprehended.
there's a ton of like parallels too. Like again, how he's caught, how the whole I deliberately set myself up to be caught bullshit, that stuff now. Again, a lot of movies take from that. And then there's a great line by John Doe at the end that's pretty meta. I will get to that as well. Let's start. Anyway, let's start.
So William Somerset, right? We introduced him. He shows up in this crime scene. And in my head, I tell myself, okay, so this is like the first murder that we're gonna see. But actually, no, it was some kind of crime of passion. Somebody got killed with a shotgun blast, blood over the place, and you see just how it's not so much that Somerset is jaded, it's just that he just used to all this grime and this darkness. So he just kind of come and ask, did the kid see it, or what happened to the kid? Something along that line. He's been there. You know what I mean? These things don't shake him at all, and that, in terms of just character setup, just perfectly sums up who he is. Like he's just walked through everything. Like, blood in the wall. Okay, whatever. I have a job to do. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they set up how he's not liked. Like generally not liked because of how much of a stickler he is for stuff and detective work.
He's very detailed oriented.
Right. So they have this whole the guy said, we'll be glad to get rid of you, and then when they set up something a little later, a little quick visual gag with that going on. So go ahead.
And I love how Brad Pitt's character, he plays the character of Mills, Harry Mills. David Mills, shows up. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, the chief brought you in, and that last time with that cop who got hurt or whatnot, so we're gonna give you a partner. You know what I mean? We're not doing the dirty Harry stuff. The man just rolls into this crime scene. He's like, hey, you know what I mean? I just got assigned here. Like, I transferred about a while back, and he just put me here. You know what I mean? I like the little conversation that they have outdoors, outside of the house where the crime takes place, where Somerset asks Mills, like, why did you transfer here? Why you really want to do this? You know what I mean? So,
like, why would anybody come here of all places? Like, just looking at that city, I mean, the whole thing has this feel of grime and depression to it, desolation. Why would anybody ask to be transferred there, wherever there is,
Yeah.
I'm actually the script writer. He based the whole world of Se7en around moving from Pennsylvania to New York.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So he described it as being in this maggot-filled city.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I love New York, but that place is grimy too. Back in the days, but in the conversation, though, we learn that Somerset is retiring in a week's time, right? So, Mills pretty much will be kind of filling in his shoes somewhat.
Replacing him. Yes.
Right. The next thing we get is, this is like the end of the day itself. So Somerset is preparing for sleep, and he has this metronome that he just activates. I love where he's hearing some person outside of his apartment, either arguing or cursing, right? And then he just puts that metronome on, and then he just focuses on that sound, and then just drifts off to sleep, right?
Right.
So,
just
to talk briefly about the title sequence, the iconic title sequence.
There's the thing that there's the pick that I hate. There's the petty bullshit.
Oh, okay. You find the 290s.
No, well, it's obviously it's 90s,
it's very, very 90s grunge rock music video stuff, which is intentional. But
I absolutely hate the whole putting the number in the name bullshit. I hate that shit. Stop that.
I think this movie set that up for the word go. I think
I really hate that bullshit. Look, what's it? Se7en. What's this? No,
stylized, dude.
Here's the thing. Who directed this? Josh Trank? What the hell?
Get it,
but here's the bullshit. All they had to do to fix that is just rotate the 790 degrees to make it look like a V. So, like, we'll see, hey, 7, but it's also a V.
Oh, yes,
right? And then you can line up the top part with E to make it line up so it's still looking like a V. Whatever, fuck it.
It's
I just
stylized, dude.
that I hate that bullshit. It's petty and petty. I know, but it's just bothered the hell out of me. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Anywho, but that's a good argument. That's a good argument. But for me, I think it's still effective. It's very, circa 1990
Yep.
grunge,
Yep.
MTV after hours kind of stuff. But it
I
works.
do. It does make you wonder, like, wait, what? What am I
Yeah.
looking at? What is this?
Right.
So
And what I love about it, looking at it today, is that this movie, right, which is so, highly acclaimed by critics, one of the greatest films of all time, got away with with basically an MTV moment that would get the teens in the audience all like excited and like, oh yeah,
Right,
like we're
yeah.
hearing Nine Inch Nails, that's the song that we hear
Right.
closer, which in itself had a rather controversial music video.
Right.
Haven't watched it, haven't bothered to see it, right? But oh yes, and well, of course, the band leader Trent Reznor, he would
Right.
collaborate with
With
Fincher
yeah,
in other in
exactly.
yeah.
films in the 2000s, basically. I think it's
Right.
like after
Yeah,
Fight Club,
exactly.
he started work with him. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
cool, okay, that's where it all started. This is really cool, though.
Yeah.
But one thing that really caught me watching this intro today, right, is that you see bits and pieces of what how the killer moves now. You see the zero in on his fingers. Like,
Yeah.
okay, and you see him like
Yeah.
writing notebooks that you'll see
You
later
see him
on.
slicing off his
scripts.
fingertips. Yeah.
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 And it's like all that in this one little, intro now, but you just kind of watching all these weird images and thinking, okay, this is just a setup the movie, which it is, but it's telling you what the killer is about now. And last thing I'll say about the intro before we get to your thoughts about it. This pretty much inspired a sword right here. American Horror Stories intros. Like
Right.
their intros always have that same kind of erratic, kind of freaky looking
Yeah, a lot
imagery.
of-
Yeah.
Close-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
That's
a lot of
American Horror Story shit.
yeah, a lot of shows and movies take that. Like, I think Walking Dead, in my opinion, have that kind of same kind of fast, cutty opening, bouncing
Yeah,
around. Kind of
the
thing.
last few seasons started to incorporate that a lot. Yeah, yeah.
Right. But yeah, no, the intro is a cool intro. It is very music video-ish, but does set up a lot of visual language stuff. Again, great foreshadowing to what coming. So yeah.
Yeah. Julian, any thoughts on the intro? It's just like, oh, it's just an intro. Okay, blah.
Well, yeah, I think it kind of sets up that, hey, this movie is going to bleep with your mind. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, it's like, hey, it's a little intro into how messed up this person's mind is, and you kind of, after watching, it's like, okay, what did I watch? You're kind of confused and disoriented. So yeah, it kind of gets you in a good mental state to know, like, hey, this is not going to be your run-of-the-mill, no pun intended, crime thriller.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this ain't Silence of the Lambs, folks. No.
Right.
Oh, by the way, Howard Shaw did the music for that as well. I
Right.
Yes.
remember that.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Oh, okay.
Summer, any thoughts on the intro? Is this still effective to you? It's just like 90s stuff. Blah.
It's very 90s. But I would say the visuals of like the removal of the fingertips and that stuff, you instantly get uncomfortable because you're
Yeah.
like, okay, what is this? Why is this happening? I mean, just the thought of a razor blade slicing through your finger, that makes you very uneasy. So yeah, it does a job of waking you up instantly to, okay, this is gonna be something insane. This is not gonna be something you've seen before. That sort
Yeah,
of thing. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Right. So now we get to day one, Monday, right? Which once again threw me a little bit off because I
Yeah.
thought from the moment where Somerset and Mills meet for the first time, I thought that was the day one itself. But no, it's actually Monday. It's like, okay. I love, like, even indoors, you still know that there's rain falling. Like when Mills gets up, you're hearing thunder. I'm like, wow, like even when he wakes up, it's just continually raining. Like, what's going on, right? We're introduced to his wife, Tracy, who is played by, well, Pepper Potts herself, right? Gwyneth
Yeah.
Paltrow. Natural MCU reference, just all right.
One thing I liked in this movie, I forget how many great little character actors are in this.
I
about
know,
4 or 5.
right?
Yeah, 4 or 5 that comes up. It's like, oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I forget he was.
Yeah.
He was. She
Yeah.
was in this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And one thing that I actually forgot in this movie was the references to movies that Mills
Yeah.
makes, right? So like when he
Yeah.
wakes up, he's talking to Tracy, talk about he mentioned Serpico. Of course, that's the
Right.
classic, police drama starring Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Great movie if you haven't seen it. And yeah, and even like when he goes into the crime scene that we're gonna get into, he mentions Barney Fife, right? Who's the character from the Annie Griffith Show. Never saw it. I had to wiki it, so it's like okay, cool.
I think it also does a good job of again showing us what type of person this is, because he's very young and fresh, so to speak. So when you have Somerset, who is an avid reader, against somebody who's just always watching movies, that's his
exactly
thing.
Yeah. I've got the nice thing about the film. The film does that really well. It does these parallels, great parallels between him. Somerset and John Doe, right?
They're almost bookends of each other at the beginning of a career and at the end of a career, that sort of thing. Yeah.
And they do a great crossover with it. And the big stories, is to teach one of these characters a real harsh lesson, unfortunately. Both of them in a sense. But what I like, what do you think of this movie? Sadly, is that this foreshadows, it kind of typecasts Morgan Freeman for a hot minute. He was playing Alex Cross, right? For a couple movies.
Funny that you said that. So as I put on Se7en, I started watching. I'm like, oh my god, I'm in the mood to watch Kiss the Girls. I want to watch. I want to watch that after this.
Those two movies for me is such bad follow-ups compared to this. Now it's like both Kiss the Girls and I forget the other one.
Along Came a Spider.
Along Came a Spider.
I haven't seen either of those two. I always heard iffy things about them.
Kiss the Girls is definitely the better of the two, and I'm not gonna lie, I do like that movie. I did enjoy that movie.
It was back when Ashley Judd was a thing, right? So
wow,
real nostalgia.
And then we had that horrible Medea Alex Cross movie. So
that horrible editing. That fight scene, that climatic fight scene. Oh my god, what was that?
Yeah,
that was horrible.
That whole movie was a hot mess.
Boy.
Anyway,
let's
go back to the movie.
Right. So now we get one of the most memorable and grimiest death scenes in the movie, and it's this really overly huge guy with his face in a bowl of spaghetti, and you hear that he pissed and shitted on himself. And when the police arrive, of course, when Somerset and Mills arrive, they open up a shelf and they just see cans of spaghetti and whatnot. And then it's just what I love it too. While I was watching the scene in particular, I was just imagining how the audience would have reacted to this, because this movie moves okay, you're in this room and you're seeing this thing. And the closer these characters get into what's going on and discovering things, you could just imagine somebody in the audience is kind of hiding their face and whatnot. It's like, oh my god, it has that feel.
There's only one small thing that bothers me with this scene is how relatively unsanitary the two of them are committed to this. Mills puts his face in a bucket of vomit.
Yes.
Mills. You see a bucket. What a master.
I honestly thought it was going to be feces because of where the bucket was located. So I was like, dude, what are you doing? Why would you stick your face there?
That's the only thing. But you'd have taken at least pour a mask and take, but I mean, they had gloves, so whatever.
Yeah, but speaking of that whole bucket of vomit scene, and I imagine when people saw this in 1995, they were just like, it's like that, right? Somerset has one of the best lines here where he says, "Is any blood in it?" I'm like, yeah, this is the type of person Somerset is. Right. He will just stick to the job. He's not even phased at what's going on. While Mills, of course, is trying to play it off all right, I just go along with it because that's my job. He just kind of wants to just leave the room as soon as now. How kind of Somerset picks it up. It's like, here's what, you just go outside and help the cops just talk to the neighbors, right? Leave me to do my job there, you know what I mean? Of course, Mills take offense it and he leaves, and I like the little tension afterwards where he kind of calls him out to, I here trying to do my job, he just chase him away, what's going on.
But you see his you do see his ego there too. He's like, you've read my file, right? You've seen everything I've done, and he's very much like, I can do this job. I've got this,
Well, the thing is, but Mills annoyed as hell. I just be clear about that in the beginning.
Yeah,
but he just constantly talking shit and doing color commentary on every little bullshit thing. It's like, yo, you're not murder crimes. You're not crime scene, chill out there.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know if it's he excited or I don't. it's like a mixture of excitement and just okay, what is really going on here? You know what I mean? Speaking of little cameos and whatnot,
Right.
Reg E.
Reggie, yeah, he's the first big character actor in this. So I was like, yeah. Although I see the link is I can understand Josh Trank taking the whole fantastic bullshit because he wasn't fantastic. So
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
right.
He was whose father again? He was
Yes,
somebody's
Johnny Storm, Johnny and
Yes,
Sue.
Storm's father. Yeah, it was Johnny and
right,
Sue's
right.
father.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
Yeah.
Johnny and
just
Sue, right,
Franklin,
right.
Franklin
Storm.
Storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was also in, well, House of Cards, which
Right.
was a show that
Right.
I was liking, you know what I mean?
Listen.
And, what?
I want to
Mr.
go.
Frank Underwood,
Listen, I want to go as long. I want to go as long as possible without saying the man name. Eh? Just I just say characters.
The name of
I just say
the
characters.
Yeah, show's great good, but
Oh
then,
boy.
man plays stunt, right? So anyway, but he plays a coroner in this though. And once again, you know what I mean. One thing the show really nails though is, what it's willing to show and what it doesn't show, but will tell you anyway. So
Right.
the coroner is more or less kind of explaining how this guy died. Right? So
Right.
you just
Which
seeing
is
like
brilliant, by the way, because I mean, from a horror lover's perspective, it's always worse when you're picturing it in your head.
Right.
So when you're being
Right.
told, okay, this guy's stomach, he was fed till his stomach exploded and his
Right.
yeah,
throat was swollen from trying to eat that much, and
Yeah.
you're just picturing it. You don't need to see it, and
Yeah.
it's so much grosser in your head every time.
Right.
Yeah, it is. And then you hear that, well, he was feeding him, and then he stepped out to go to the grocery to buy more food. I was like,
Right.
what?
So it hints. Right. So it hints again. This is where you get to see Somerset skills, where it hints how calculating, John Doe is.
John Lewis,
He's
yeah.
not. Yeah, he's not just some kind of guy. And they foreshadow something that I liked, where they talk about the gun to the head. He could have easily killed him, but he clearly planned ahead about
Yes.
this. He could have easily shoot because they say it had a gun to his head, and that comes up later in the story, right?
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, go ahead.
Yes, it does. Right. You also see R. Lee Ermey, the late
Yes,
great R. Lee
not
Ermey, from Full Metal Jacket.
not a big character actor. Yeah.
Yeah, and he plays the police chief, more or less kind of, just kind of letting Somerset know, well, more or less Somerset is letting him know what's going on now, right?
Yeah.
So now we get to D2, Tuesday, right? Richard Roundtree.
Right.
Shaft himself.
Yeah, Shaft himself.
I'm
Yeah.
right.
Yes, he is. He plays the district attorney, Martin Talbot, and it's really like later on where you pick up on, okay, it's after this crime scene and it's involving this lawyer by the name of Eli Gould, right?
Right.
And in terms of just setup, in terms of just how they set this whole scene up is brilliant in my opinion. So Mills goes in because the day before Mills is told basically by the chief to handle this crime, right? So because of Somerset's skills, it's just like, all right, well, Somerset,
Right.
you handle
Right,
the fat guy,
Somerset-
right?
Yeah, right. So what happens is that Somerset kind of wanted to. He said, "Look, this is it now." Because he was retiring in a week, he's like, "Fuck it, I don't want to start with this bullshit." And it looked like something serious, but then they get into the pattern now, and
Yes,
like,
exactly.
all right, well, this gets serious now. Yeah, go ahead.
So I just love Mills just goes in and into the room, right? Into the room when the murder takes place, right? He sees these two forensic guys. He tells her, just leave. Let me handle my stuff, right? The
Right.
TV is on. At least two TVs are on, and it's showing showing Roundtree's character talking, right? So as he turns off the TV, sorry, you get this wide shot, and on the ground, literally, like about a little bit in front of him, you see the word greed written in blood
Right.
on the ground, on the floor, sorry.
Yeah.
And it's how long it takes for him. Like, they just say it takes for like about a few seconds, and then he looks and is like, oh, I love that. Love that to the setup. And then the last little key piece of the show, and bring it up later, is a little portrait photo of Eli's wife. And there's this kind of like an image of glasses, in blood, around her eyes. And,
Right.
it just leaves that there more or less open. So it was just setting up what's going on, how this murder takes place. I just love that. Any thoughts on the greed reveal?
Yeah. It's a great shot. It immediately sets up the mystery of what's going on, and then Somerset sort of piece together, backwards what going on about the whole situation. Especially when so you say, oh well, like, let's check back, the other guy and try to make sense of what's going on. I like that. Simple, great framing, and your brain started to do the work after the fact.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, yeah, it is.
you can see. I mean, just as the villain is a very meticulous and calculating person, you could see that Fincher is very meticulous and calculated as well too. Where
You're right.
there's not, everything means something. Everything is tying to something. It's a movie that the more you pay attention to it, the more you get from it. So, I mean, I love that.
Yeah, that's testament to great filmmaking and just a great story, right? So yeah, so back in the police office now, Somerset is given some evidence from the coroner. You know what I mean? We consider the fat guy's death, right? And it's
Right.
some little bits
Little
like
pieces of
tin
plastic.
pieces of plastic,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
Right.
Somerset goes back into the
I don't know
house.
if it's
Go
I
ahead.
forget if it's this scene or the other scene before there. They had the little visual language of them chipping off his name off of the door. I like that.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
Yes,
yes.
yes, yes,
Right.
yes. I love that. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
I,
Good,
I
good thing
also
about it.
I
That.
also like how he while he's talking, the captain is trying to convince him that this is what you're made for, and this guy is scratching his name off the door, and yet he's telling the captain no, he's done with this. He's tired of everything with the city and the crime and stuff, and yet he gets irritated and he tells the guy, could you stop doing that for a second,
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I
almost
love
showing
those little
where
things about
he's
Somerset. Like
yeah
he will be as
Yeah.
chill as possible. But
yeah
like if you notice something, it's like, dude, just stop it, now, please.
it's like what Julian is saying too. It's like David Fincher. There's nothing is wasted. Everything means something,
Yes.
and and it's showing us that he is on some level conflicted about leaving.
Right.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. All right, so that's back to the evidence, right? So Somerset goes back into the house, and one thing that this show really nails, like if you want to characterize the movie, it works as a mystery thread. Like you're just there following these characters as they just trying to uncover, whatever information or whatever thing that's going on, right? So just Somerset going inside and looking down the ground in front of the fridge and seeing, oh, this is where that little piece of plastic went in. But wait a minute, what's going on there with the fridge here? Let me just move that now.
Right.
And then he just looks at the wall now and
Right.
he sees gluttony written, and then
Right.
there's a note attached to it.
Right.
And actually written down what it says. Basically it says, long as the way and hard that out of hell leads up to light.
Right.
I love like in the next scene where they back at the precinct, sorry, where as the chief reads it out, Somerset says Milton, Paradise Lost. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, he
Yeah.
knows that kind of stuff. And now we get to a moment that was all over the marketing for this movie. This is where Somerset calls out the seven deadly sins. So it's gluttony, greed, sloth, pride, wrath, lust, and envy. I love the like where he says you could expect five more of these, right? Because it's like two murders already, right? But yeah, in terms of just the setup, I just love the fact that hey, this killer is actually like writing out what the sins are. So it's like, oh, there's a pattern here going on. I really, really dug that.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on the reveal of the seven sins?
Yeah. Again, the sad part is that okay. So I vaguely remember this in the seeing it for the first time. I was like, oh, greed. I was like, okay, why? And then when you see gluttony, it's like, all right, seven. That's all right, seven. So yeah, your brain don't make the connection, but then now it's time to hear. As I say, a good murder mystery is not necessarily who but it's really not necessarily the who, but really or even the how sometimes, but really the why.
Yeah,
So you want to know why he doing this. That is the big
Yes.
thing, right? That is really the secret to a lot of this. In any good who done it or anything like that. So now you're waiting for them to like sort out and figure that out now. And that's where it's at a build, in my opinion. It's like, all right, wood. No, just and it starts to become this really, really strong character piece from here on in.
yeah, indeed, indeed.
Right.
And speaking of that, though, I love where Somerset is just like, I don't want anything to do with this.
Yes.
I'm retiring in a few days. Leave me out of this. And Mills is like, I'm all over it.
Yeah.
Like I just love that.
I
Just
mean,
the
you
back
could
and
you
forth.
could just see how a man like Somerset can already see down the road. He knows this is not going to end. It's not going to stop anytime soon. He knew that from
Right.
the first time they got into the gluttony crime scene,
Right.
And Mills is just of the opinion that, this is just some quack and we'll catch him like that.
Right.
He's so inexperienced and still so naive, that
Yeah.
he's just not seeing the woods for the trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Julian, anything you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of reminds you of Danny Glover and Lethal Weapon,
Oh yeah,
Right.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect
And I
comparison
guess,
right there. Riggs and Murtaugh,
yeah,
Somerset and Mills, right?
yeah. And I guess with you have Somerset who's like, he don't want no part of this, but Mills is like, yeah, he's saying like, yeah, this is gonna be my big breakout case,
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna really make my name. And as someone was saying, he has no idea what's going on, and Mills and Somerset could tell, hey, this is gonna get worse. You're gonna, and I said it's not gonna end well, and he's just like, yeah, gung ho, MTV generation, yeah, he's
Yes,
fired.
yes.
Let's get the guy, poo poo, But he has no idea what's coming,
Right.
and neither does the audience either.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. And then we get a moment, right? Well, a scene where, and I admit, the first couple of times I saw this, I didn't really care for this moment. I felt like, okay, maybe the movie is slowing down because we kind of have to be less grimy here. So we have to actually kind of be a little bit, let the audience kind of relax for a bit. But I was kind of like, at first when I saw it, I was just like, all right, well, this scene kind of dragging a little bit, like it's not going anywhere. But over the years, I kind of appreciate it now, and I'll just call it the best library/book reading montage ever, or one of the best in my opinion. 'Cause yeah, essentially it's Somerset going to the library. I like where the guards playing Bach for some reason. I love
Right.
that. Let's play this nice operatic music, right? And it's just Somerset looking for books related to the Seven Deadly Sins,
Right.
scanning some images, and really what it is, folks, is just an excuse to show some really, really like weird, you know, WTF imagery from the from said books.
Yeah.
That's really the point of the whole scene, right? That's all it is.
Right. And it's very,
This
it's
kind of
very,
send it
I think
across
it's
to
also,
Bill
I
3.
mean, I think it's also a point, sorry, that it shows us again Somerset's way of thinking, because
yeah.
it's shown against Mills, and Mills is just kind of there drinking a beer on his couch with these pictures, looking lost, like
Right.
he's trying to find Waldo. And
Right.
and here we see Somerset is already a few steps ahead. He's already kind of in the mind of this person, seeing where this could lead to, or that sort of thing. So I kind of liked it. I kind of always dig when they have those moments, in these types of movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and the music helps too, because the music is
Yeah.
so nice
The
and
guards playing back is
relaxing.
weird, but I appreciate it. It's
Right.
you don't see those guys playing that kind of music, but I mean
I,
they said they have culture coming out their ass, so here we go.
Yeah.
I know how 90s is this, because not a computer in sight. The
Oh
I
internet is
yes,
not,
know,
yes.
right?
you know.
No, like what is up with this city, Joe? Like, come
Yeah,
on,
for
right? But yeah, I mean, as far as just like a little calm montage, a little calm before the storm moment. I really, really dug the scene. I think the scene is great actually, and it actually foreshadows, what I mean, something involving John Doe himself, right? Which makes
Right.
the scene even more brilliant, right? Now we get to day 3, Wednesday, right? So Somerset's office is now Mills's own, right? So
Right.
I like that when, Somerset comes inside, Mills is kind of just getting ready to set up. And it just they're like, all right, well, okay, you still here, Somerset? All right, well, okay, I have my stuff to do, you have your stuff to do, right? So I thought that's cool. And then the phone rings, and I think Somerset says, well, party package, so this comes with the office. And actually, the person calling is Tracy, right? But Tracy wants to
Right.
talk to Somerset, and what happens is that she invites him over for dinner, right?
Right.
So now I'm going through the MC reference here, right?
Trouble
So
man.
there you go, bingo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you reach in, yes, Tracy's playing the classic Marvin Gaye song "Trouble Man." If you
Yeah.
remember Captain America: The Winter Soldier, that was the
Yes.
song that
Oh,
Cap
okay,
recommended
okay.
to Falcon, and they played it near the end of the movie, and it worked
Right.
in that moment. I was like, yeah, some MCU shit. Okay, look. I love that. I love that. Of course, well, Gwyneth Paltrow, you know who she is, right? So cool. And I just love that it's just a simple, dinner scene. And I mean, it is talking about, their lives and stuff like that, right? But I love that the movie is just a way enough to say, even in this little in this little place of tranquility and peace, there's always something dark going on, right? So you hear the rumbling of the subway train above that. And like, yeah, just sonically, it's just perfect though. Like, even when they are right now, where it's all calm and serene and zen, to extent, and they have the little jazz music and sipping wine, you have another reminder that, yeah, they're in the worst city in the world. I love it.
Right, right. So they set up the whole them just kind of being a bit. The fella kind of messed them up. No, the whoever sell them the house.
I think it's some landlord or something like that.
Yeah, he bullshit them. No, so because they clearly wouldn't have buy the house if they didn't know. Right.
Yeah.
That was
and as they bring up that, Ricardo, as they bring up that too, Somerset's laugh when he finds out about it though. I love that. Just him seeing the irony behind it and just finding it so funny, you know what I mean? Like he would have just been like, God damn this city. But he finds humor in that everybody is just like, yeah, even Wills is like, well, yeah, F you, but all right, this funny, ha ha ha, all they done. I mean, so I love that. Right. I love those little that little moment there, right? So while so back now, later on, Somerset and Wills get back to the Eli Gould case, to the Greed case, right? And apparently, some pictures show that he was given a butcher's knife and he had to remove a pound of flesh from his own body. Right. So it's like the Merchant of Venice kind of thing. And I believe he uses his stomach, right, for that. And like in your head, you're like, dude, somebody actually like sat down with this guy and said, here's this is what you have to do, Trent. And like you're forced to do this. Like that is some Saw level shit right there, Trent.
Yeah.
That is straight up Saw stuff right there, Trent. But we learn later on that Eli's wife was put into a safe house. We'll see her later, actually. And then, actually, in the next scene, we do see her, right? So they show her the picture of her husband's, corpse, the dead body, right? And then she notices, there's the painting behind him is upside down. So they go back to the crime scene and they check in the painting. They look, they notice some fingerprints. And it's only when they do a little spray and all that kind of stuff. That's image-wise, though.
I have a little trivia there. The fingerprint technician is actually Morgan Freeman's son.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. I would not have known that, but that's really dope. But yeah, though, just looking at it now, though, it's almost enough to make your blood crawl, Chad.
Yeah.
Fingerprint image, fingerprint of the words, of the letters, of the word I should say, help me. Like I would have never thought about that in a million years. And like looking at it today, I actually forgot that happened, and my mind was just kind of blown. Like just the I don't know, the thought behind it though is just insane in my opinion. And yeah, it is a very WTF moment without showing any blood or guts. So that's how incredibly effective this movie is. Any thoughts on the big help me reveal, or it's just it's a moment for you?
I don't really have any thoughts on it other than to say again, it shows John Doe's his patience, how meticulous he is, that you have to plan like 10 steps ahead, and then you have to hope that the detectives working on your case are smart enough to figure this stuff out.
But that was the thing.
Take Somerset out of the equation. Mills wasn't finding that.
Right. So, that was the whole point to it. They got into a whole, that aspect of it of, again, it really ripped off the Dark Knight. And the Dark Knight ripped this off because of a thing that they bring up coming later. Because they probably wouldn't have under normal circumstances. He really would have stayed ahead of them. He would have just do crimes. And then what I think happened is that he, rehaul his plan when that thing happens now. Because he mentioned that this thing that got him.
He had to change his timetable.
Which you'll get into. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah. The next scene though, points for the Sanity Lambs reference, because Bill said, "Oh yeah, there's also a thing to these killers, man. The voices maybe do it, the doll maybe do it, Jodie Foster maybe do it." It's like, okay, I see what y'all did there. Little reference there. That's cool, little meta moment. But that was cool, right? So now we get to D4, Thursday, right? So they identify the prints. It belongs to a guy called Theodore. Well, Victor, that's his, alias, Alan, right? Apparently he had this, criminal record, history with mental illness. And Eli Gould was his lawyer like years ago, right?
Right.
So I love the little foreshadowing moment where right afterwards where Somerset is driving, right, and talk about you ever been shot before, you ever used your gun before, and he's like, yeah, well, once actually. I never really had the chance to really use it, all that kind of stuff. I was just like, wow, like, you know what I mean, like, this thing was just like a throwaway scene. It's just something, that cops apparently talk about, on the way to work, or when they just want to connect with each other. But it's just the foreshadowing this, because yeah, like, in the third act, you'll see how that all comes full circle. So I really, really love that. So anyway, so the police set out now to find Victor, and well, surprise, surprise, he's dead, right? Or at least that's what they think he is, right? Because they find his body on his bed, and
Oh
right
my
over the
God.
bedhead, you see the word slot written, and
Right.
just from a Freeman, just from a visual perspective, dude, just seeing this malnourished skeletal figure of a man on a bed, and then as one of the cops going over to see if he's breathing or not, he just does this. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And
So that
I
that
would
this
imagine,
this
like,
a
if you
great.
one second, I would imagine, like, if people saw that in theaters, they
Yeah.
would have jumped. They would have lose their
Right.
minds. I know
Oh,
when I watch it at home, I just jump. I was just like,
yeah.
whoa! You're waiting for it
Yeah.
to happen, but when it happens, like, boom,
Yeah. No. Why this work too is that you understand. They start up slowly build up why John Doe is so successful, because he really taps into people's bad side now. But the guy was whispering, "You deserve this." Now.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the
Yeah,
little things like that, and then he wake up, the guy got back up there. It's like, oh, that's a real cool, clever little character piece. Like why bring that line in for some side character, right? For some
yeah, yeah,
nobody extra character, right? But
exactly.
that's the whole point.
Yeah.
That
Uh,
scene is actually listed on the 100 scariest moments in movies.
oh,
That scene
really?
is actually on that list. Yeah, because
Right.
that like I said, it looks like a corpse. So
Yeah.
that freaked everybody, including myself, out when that guy exhaled or inhaled or whatever that was. It just, you weren't expecting it at all, because and then every scene before that was a dead body. So it was such
Right.
a wonderful setup. You weren't expecting the person to move at all. You
Yeah.
know?
And what that scene kind of reminds me of a bit is oh gosh, the autopsy scene in Silence of the Lambs, with the body that they fished over, and it's only when the guy puts his hand down the person's mouth or throat that you see this pupa for the moth. Like,
Yes.
just like I would just I always kind of wondered how people reacted when they saw that scene. Like, I remember being disgusted the first time I saw that, but like over the years, it's like, yeah, this is a cool scene. So I just kind of like the same thing here with this slot scene. Julian, any thoughts on the slot scene? Is it effective to you, or not?
Yeah, well, I think that's the moment where the film kind of, as I said, it dips its toe into some full on horror jump scares, and
Yeah.
I think that would have had. Imagine watching that in cinema. I think
I
everybody
know,
would have
right?
jumped up. Yeah, and it's I mean, and a movie with extremely horrific scenes. That is probably one of the most horrific.
It
Even
really
even
is.
even
Yeah.
even before the jump scare, it's just it's
Yeah, and
very
points for
crazy.
the makeup, by the way. The guy's
Yeah.
face,
Production.
very,
Rob
Yeah.
very, very well
Rob
done.
Button. It's Rob Button. That's my boy. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
gentleman.
Rob
The work
Button did
on
his thing.
the thing, the fog. He's just Total Recall. He's just a genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Shout out to Rob Button, man. So once again, similar to the gluttony scene, we have, well, when they do the autopsy on the body himself, right? And it's just the stuff that they hear, though. Like, he was pretty much paralyzed and bedridden for a full year, no, a full
Right.
Yeah.
year. So
It's
literally, they
just
find the body 1 year after he
The
was
first.
kind
Right.
of tortured.
yeah. And I just the moment in the hospital, too, that line that the doctor says, it just stuck with me when he said,
Yeah. Well done.
even if his brain wasn't mush, he, even after all of this, after he died, he still has hell waiting for him, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
such a brilliant
It's
line, dude.
like, damn, and you
Yeah.
end up empathizing with these horrible people, because they're supposed to be like the sinners or whatever,
Right. Right.
but you find yourself, and I guess that's where that whole apathy and empathy thing comes back. It comes into
Yeah.
play.
Yeah, but you're right. But yeah, that guy, whoever he was who played the Doctor, though, he should be like a horror movie icon, though. He's like what Ken Foree in Dawn Dead was, when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Yeah, that
It's
line
it's
is
one
a
of those
hell of a
lines,
line.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So before day five, right? Mills's wife, Tracy, sorry, calls Somerset at home and asks if she can meet with him the following day, right? So now we get to day five, Friday, right? They're at the restaurant, and here's the thing, yeah. Like, one argument I was making while I was watching this show here is that we barely saw any of Gwyneth Paltrow in it, right?
Right.
But I find any moments with her was so great, though, like so effective
Yeah.
now. Especially this scene
Yeah.
right here, because
Ratchet actually says that Gwyneth's character is the only sunshine in the movie. And
Right.
rewatching it, I see that. I see where, she's the only bright light in this dark, dark film. And I guess that's why it's so effective that, like you said, she's not in that many scenes, but yet it hits so much harder because of that.
Right.
yeah, and I don't know. For me, when I was watching this, especially knowing what happens to her, in the end, right? It's kind of sad seeing her like in the moment where you see her, do you just feel like this, like underlying sense of sadness, way, right? So here, basically, what she's talking about is, she reveals that she's pregnant, right? But she doesn't want to raise her kid in the city, and then she expresses how much she just hates the city so much, right? And then Somerset, reveals a layer about himself now. So he talks about, he mentioned it before where he had a girlfriend, right? But in this case, he kind of mentions that, yeah, they were in a relationship and it was close to marriage, right? That's how he describes it. But then he talks about,
Yeah.
she wanted to be, she was going to have a baby, and he just pressured her, about it now. And then, the relationship just fell apart, right? So yeah, just him kind of revealing that, though, was just such a powerful moment, right? But I love where he kind of gives her sort of a ultimatum here, where she talks about, if you don't want to keep the baby, just keep that to yourself, right? But if you do keep it, just spoil the child every chance you could get.
Right.
And I don't know, boy, just knowing that, what happens at the end, it just makes her just this truly, truly tragic figure, Jed. So I don't know, I
Yeah.
just love the scene here. Any thoughts on
And,
the
and
restaurant scene?
yeah, and I'm thinking that watching this for the first time, it probably just feels like, well, okay, as you're saying, this is kind of like the library scene is a break from all the,
Yeah.
the carnage and dead bodies. It's like, oh yeah, well, we're getting to know the character, and you have no idea what's coming. And it's like, oh, okay, it's kind of slowing
Hmm.
down what going on here, and it goes back to me as I was saying, they know exactly what they're doing, because for that final reveal to be as impactful as it was, you had to have this
Yes.
scene.
Yeah.
Without this scene, it would not as really as hit you as hard. So I mean, it is the audience, we're being manipulated, and we're like John Doe victims and the detectives. We have no
Yes.
idea. We
Yeah,
have
Yes.
for
no
real.
clue that our buttons are being pushed and we're being programmed. So I mean,
Yeah.
it is brilliant what
Yeah.
is happening.
Ricardo, any thoughts on this restaurant scene?
Yeah. Paltron and Freeman has great chemistry in this scene. It's understated. It's just them together. Like they now meet each other. Yet she decided to confide in him because like he's the only person in the city you could kind of do that to, and she didn't want
Yeah.
to talk to the husband about the big news. No. So it's a really good scene, and it's again it's a good stopping point for reference in the rest of the movie. No.
Yeah, indeed. Right. So the next scene now, this is what you were hinting at earlier, Ricardo. Somerset comes up with this really smart idea how to catch, pretty much figure out who the killer is, right? But it's incredibly risky here too. But it's one of those things that you kind of forget happens in the movie. But like
Right.
look at it now, it's like, oh my god, that is so smart now. And then it ties back to the whole library thing. So
Yeah.
essentially, he has a connect in the FBI, right? So he just has to feed them like a list of books that people rented from that library in the city. So he's just looking for the person who borrowed books on Dante's Inferno, and
Right.
I
And
forgot the
it's
others,
not
stuff
quite
like that.
legal. You can't talk about
Right.
it.
So
Yeah,
yeah. So they
And
get
I
just like,
think this
into
is before
wow.
the Patriot Act, right? Where
right.
it
This
kind
is in
of
19.
Yeah.
This was in 95, so it was the whole government, spying on
Yeah.
people stuff. Right.
Spying on people. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
the whole government, right. So it was the kind of the beginning of government surveillance. Government surveillance is not a new thing. It's been going on time
Yeah.
immemorial, but
Right.
this was the first time that it had already like really crossed the line now. And this movie addressed that, and I like that. And again, this is where Dark Knight, borrow from.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
like yeah, how you got to catch him, and he, I like how this references to what comes later though.
Yeah. I know
And
we
it's
talking Dark
Morgan
Knight, this
Freeman.
Dark Knight that, we
I
didn't really
just
bring up
realized, yeah,
Morgan Freeman as Lucius
yeah,
Fox.
I just
You know?
made the connection because of what
Yeah.
Ricardo said, because it's the same
Yeah,
kind of scene
yeah,
that's
You
playing
use
there.
every cell phone as a sonar device.
right.
Like wow, wow, wow.
Morgan
We
Freeman is
shout out to Morgan
everywhere.
Freeman, man. The OG, the OG. Yeah. So the name that comes up now with a particular book, I forgot the name of the book, right? Related to the Seven Deadly Sins is Jonathan Doe, right? So get John
Right.
Doe. And I was just like even looking at it, I was like, okay, like even they question me, that's my real name, Jonathan Doe. So that was really cool. So right, so Somerset and Mills head up to his apartment, right? Well, we only kind of see him as a killer himself, right? We don't really see him at the moment, right? So he's in the hallway, he spots them outside his apartment, and then he shoots at them, right? And then they give chase.
Right.
And here we get a really intense, very, very well directed, and edited, sorry, chase scene as well between the
Yeah.
Yeah.
detectives and the killer. And I should
Very,
mention
very
this too because,
intelligent too. Very intelligent too, because I love
yeah,
that Mills was actually thinking before he moved, kind of thing. I
Right.
appreciated that.
Yeah, and they did a good job with the, what I liked is the whole, well, when Mills see them, he like was real shocked though. He was like, and the body
Yeah.
language, they did a good job with the body language because you thought, right, he's gonna run, but you're not sure what he's gonna do. Then he just dropped the groceries, but you notice what he do. Drop the groceries first, then pull out the gun, which is like good, nice little misdirection, distraction shit.
Yes.
So you see, they really set up a lot of calculation with that. No? I wonder whose idea
yeah,
was that. I'm not sure whose idea was that.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
I wonder, yeah. But I should mention too, this movie was nominated for Best Editing at the
Right.
Academy Awards. It lost to Apollo 13. I mean, Apollo 13,
Okay. Right.
deserve it, but I would say though, in this scene alone though, the editing for this is flawless, in my opinion.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's not quick cuts or anything like that. You see just enough and it builds well enough, especially with how it shows intense score that goes on, right? And yeah, I just dug every second of this though, even right down to the end where the killer apprehends Mills and about to shoot him at point blank range. Now, one moment I forgot to mention here is that there was a little conversation that they had where between Somerset and Mills, right? Where Somerset was saying, well, with rape victims, if one was to
Right.
say help,
Yes.
people would ignore her, right? So
Right.
it's best to say fire, right? So
Yeah,
you
which
see the
is
case
true.
where the killer is about to kill Mills, right?
Yeah.
And Somerset is like, Mills! And Mills just whispers, no,
Right.
right? And then afterwards, little moment of clarity, and then the killer runs off. It's like, yeah, that's just such a great moment that you
Right.
would think like in some other Hollywood movie they yell out help or whatever. It's like,
Right.
no,
And
I love
that
that.
comes back later because it comes back from before with the whole gun to the head thing now. So you get the sense that John Doe, that's where he started his plan too now. That's the
Mhm.
point now. So he starts his plan. He's like, he could have killed him, but it's like, nah,
Yes.
I had to carry things a little further now, as usual.
Yeah, and I just love like this scene in particular. I would say the moment where the killer actually fires at Mills, though, this is where Mills just kind of loses it. But so he goes back to the apartment, and someone says like, "No, you need to calm yourself down. We need a warrant. We can't just bust inside
Yeah.
this guy's apartment." Mills is like,
Again,
"Nope,
we see where his
can't go out."
emotions overtake him because we saw it before when Mills with the photographer scene.
Right.
Another scene
Ah,
that
good thing you brought up
links
that.
back, yes, where he's talking to him about learning to put his emotions aside and deal with the case, and we see where he goes off the handle on the reporter. So we see it again here, and again, as Ricardo said, it's such good foreshadowing of this character to see, we see where he's not a man who is in control of his emotions, and we see how dangerous that could be.
Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. Now a
Yeah,
scene that I actually
and
forgot.
what is
Oh,
interesting?
sorry, go on.
Yes.
Repeat, sorry.
Well, no, I'll say, and what is interesting, I mean, as I think, as we said earlier, as we were talking, these two guys, I mean, the kind of world weary detective on the brink of retirement and the hothead young partner. I mean, these are well-worn tropes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen it in movies long before Seven, but this is the first time we really actually see, a really deep kind of exploration of these characters and how effectively that you could use these trope characters with
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
where the hothead ends up leading and how well the world weary one is done. So I mean, yeah, it's really is a very, as I said, just brilliant way of doing it.
Yeah, indeed. So I'd seen that I actually forgot happened, and like I had to kind of think about it for a bit, like put the movie on pause and think about it. I was like, oh, okay, that actually kind of makes sense. So Mills ends up paying this homeless woman to pretty much invent this story to the cop, talk about, oh
Right.
well, the killer was on the chase and start shooting up the place and
I thought
whatnot.
I thought
And
this was
this is like
already
the excuse now that well,
right.
Somerset and Mills uses now to go inside the
Right.
apartment legally. I was
Yeah.
like, that's real
Yeah.
bad
Very clever.
though. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice clever move there.
But what I do, it took me a while to pick up on it. I was like, oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
what's going on. All right, that's really cool. Would not have thought about that. I'll tell you, they put a lot of effort into making this show way clever than it should be, given the um the dark nature of it, right?
Right.
So in the apartment now, they find evidence linking to the murders, the previous murders. So we see same cans of spaghetti from the gluttony case. We see Victor's hand that was using the help me message. I think it was in some jar with embalming fluid or something like that. I think so. You see like notebooks
Yes.
with just talking about with this him
His thoughts.
just
His
his thoughts,
thoughts.
right?
Yeah.
One in particular strike me where you talk about how he just met some guy on a subway and he was talking to him and he didn't really realize till afterwards where he realized that he puked all over him. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like he was just so disgusted by him. It's just this kind of weird existential stuff there. But one thing they noticed though is like a bunch of photos of like the torture victims themselves. And then, well, speaking of photos, one photo that they find in a bathtub just so happened to be the photographer who was harassing
Yeah.
Mills earlier on
A,
in the film. Oh,
a
sorry,
little trivia,
this was
sorry, on
prior
the
to the
notebooks.
sorry, this was after the slot reveal. I forgot to mention that.
Yes. A little trivia on the notebooks. All of those books are actually written in 15,000 books, I
Nice.
think it was.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they actually, Fincher had it actually done, and they said it would take about 2 months to read all of them,
Yeah,
which is what
Right.
Morgan Freeman says in the movie as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Fincher
Yeah.
was clearly channeling
yeah,
his inner Stanley Kubrick for that one way.
right?
That is some shining stuff, right? Right. So once they find the picture now, the phone goes off, right? A phone, and they're trying to figure out where it is. Mills finds the phone, and we hear John for the first time in the movie, right? And I like how like cocky quote unquote he seems where it's just like I admire you, I admire what you guys are doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like because all the throw off my plan, you know what I mean? It's all setback, you know what I mean? My schedule will be altered now, and it's just like, but still, I admire you guys, and he hangs up, right? But I also love that Somerset records the convo. I thought that was a really cool idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, now we get to D6 by Saturday, right? So right. So in the apartment, they find a receipt for some item that was purchased from this place called Wild Bill's Leather Shop. I think that's the name of it. And then when you see it, it's like this really seedy S&M place.
Right.
Yeah, and once again they get away with this in this movie, right? And apparently what it is he bought was some sort of leather strap thing, something like that. With that,
A
that's what we
strap,
know.
a strap on with a blade on the end.
Right. Yeah.
Very disturbing.
But
Yeah.
you're gonna get to it. You're gonna get to it, right? And in the I forgot to mention too. Also at the apartment, you find a photo of a woman who the little later on is a prostitute, right?
Right.
And it's when they were talking to the guy who owns the shop, right? Meet some a policeman from outside tells the guys, hey, we found a woman, right? And then they go into this sort of underground sort of S&M sex police
Right.
PC, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of brace myself for this one, right? So as they open the door, I like where at the side of the door you see lust written there. And I
Right.
like in terms of framing how little the camera shows you in terms of what happened in the murder scene, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're still there like, what happened? What happened? What happened? and then there's a guy who is tied up somewhat near the bed, and he's like, "Get this thing off me! Get this thing off me!" Right? And then we get the interrogation scene, by,
Yeah,
Yes,
sad,
that
right?
and just
actor
where
is
you just
also a very
hearing
good
what,
character actor.
Yeah, that's what I was really
Leland something, I
okay. Yeah,
think.
I don't know the guy's name, but he's looking familiar.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
he does a lot of stuff like that. He tends to play these disturbed characters, and that scene was he was really good in it. He was
Yeah,
he
very good in it.
was, yeah. And well, the police actually apprehend the owner of the place, well, the guy who was at the ticket booth, sorry, and the guy who's tied up, right? And both, well, Somerset is interviewing one, Mills is interviewing the other one. I love in terms of framing where it's just on opposite sides now, and you just seeing the conversation going on in each room, um, and it's edited to suit where you just waiting to find out what happens, right? And
right.
then when they actually tell you what it is,
Yeah,
it's like,
brutal. Yeah,
jeez.
And again, you don't need to
right.
see the scene
Exactly.
because they
How you
keep showing
picture it.
you the picture of the apparatus, and your
Yeah,
mind just like,
right.
oh my god.
It's easy.
Yeah.
This
Like,
why
wow.
Fincher. Yeah, this why Fincher is really really brilliant in my opinion, which is he breaks a classic film convention, which is show don't tell, right? Um,
Yeah.
it's a lot of tell don't show, but it works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it
And
works.
especially
Yes.
in this
It really
context where
works.
you don't want to see that. You
Yeah,
do not want to see that, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But what I
Yeah,
really, really love about
I
the
think
scene, though. Go on.
no, I was just gonna say I think I don't say a more overly enthusiastic or a less crafty director would be like, yeah, we had to show little flashbacks of all these things and stuff.
Right.
But
Right.
as someone saying,
Yes.
nothing they would have shown would have been worse than what we conjured up in our mind.
Right.
And it actually it brings me back. I was watching some trivia on the film, and in the entire film, there's actually only one murder in the entire movie. And
Oh my.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
that's the
Yes,
way
I
yes,
get that. I
yes.
get that.
yeah,
That's dope. That's
yeah,
dope.
this
Yeah.
movie there's very little actual violence. There's only one murder compared to, I mean, if you're watching like a Friday the 13th, you have like six,
Right.
seven killed,
Yes.
and this is way more disturbing than any of that. So just
Yep.
goes to show
It
that
is.
the mind is the scariest thing. And you just need to suggest. You just need to
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
paint the picture,
Yep.
and yeah,
Yeah.
let the mind run wild.
Exactly. And a mainstream Hollywood movie got away with this,
Yeah.
That still blows my mind. When I was watching this, like a scene like this, you'd easily imagine something like that being in some kind of sleazy 80s slasher film. You know what I mean? Some intro, some moment that would have gotten it an X rating or something like that. But it's in this mainstream Hollywood R-rated film though, and he got away with it. You know what I mean? Like, and it works. Like, I'm not gonna, question the people the guy who wrote the film, why he came up with this idea though, but it works though, in my opinion. And you just see, like, as it's revealed, like afterward, you just see how worn down our heroes are. Just like, dude, like, what do you expect us to do after hearing
Yeah,
something
like
like
how
this?
worse can it get? That's
Yeah,
probably where your mind is going at that point. This is the worst thing I can think of. So how much worse can this get?
yeah, and even Somerset, who you really, really feel it for in this movie, says there's not gonna be a happy ending. Like into the foreshadows, like,
I think he says
yeah,
that more than once. He's just kind of trying to get that across the mills. This is not gonna have a happy ending. This is not a case you should be working. He kept kind of pushing that on him, and he wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
yeah, indeed, indeed. So, well, the following scene now, this is a moment I actually forgot happened in the movie. Bar scene, similar to the restaurant scene. This is one of the best scenes in the movie. It is a
Yeah.
dialogue, but it's what they're talking about basically with apathy, right? So, it's just really these two guys, their conflicting points of view, right? So Somerset kind of comes off like, it doesn't make sense to be good in a world like this. You know what I mean? So that's why it's easy for somebody to beat up their child and raise the child, and that kind of stuff there. But I like Mills's perspective, which may seem a little naive, but I love that there's a little sliver of hope in it, where it's like,
Right.
yeah, the world is
Yeah.
messed up, but at least I want to do something. I at least I want to try and make it better the best way I could. But unlike you just want to give up. You know what I mean? He just says
Right.
it in that kind of way, and I just love that. And even when he gets the call or pitch or whatnot and he leaves, it's how the camera lingers on Somerset. Like he's just sipping his beer and thinking about what Mills said. It's perfect. I love that. Any thoughts on that bar scene in particular, especially
Yeah,
with
yeah,
what you're talking
yeah.
about?
Yeah, there's a great scene because it parallels them well, but then when you learn later on, it parallels Somerset and John Doe really well. Like they kind of
Yes.
think the same way in many ways, you know.
Yes, yes.
They kind of think about the
Yeah,
world
that's true. That's true.
just
I was gonna make
one
that point as
yeah,
well.
yeah, one manifests in a different way than the other. So yeah, it's a great scene. Actually, a pretty good scene, you know, getting into the psychology and philosophy of everybody.
Yeah, and I love before we get to your thoughts, Summer and Julian, I love that that scene comes right after the whole shocking reveal behind the lust crime, right? Because yeah, in the audience mind it's just like, dog, like why they going so hard on this? Why this like is are you trying to tell us that the will is bad? That's the point of this movie. And then you have this moment here where at least somebody says, well, kinda, but it doesn't have to be. I love that. I love that in terms of just kind of easing the audience a bit without, without ever kind of dumbing things down or ever making them feel that okay, from this point everything is gonna be okay, guys. Don't worry. No, no, no. It's just like a little ease, like a little once again a little calm before the storm, right? Julian, any thoughts on this on the bar scene?
Yeah, well, it kind of encapsulates how very philosophical this movie is, and it kind of shows that, well, okay, this is Mills's philosophy and Somerset's philosophy, and as you're all saying that Somerset's kind of mirrors John Doe's as well too, and I guess for me as well is it just goes to show how the pacing of the movie as well is because because Fincher well knows, hey, after that last scene. You're going to need you're gonna need a breather. You're gonna need to relax, calm down, kind of process things. So yeah, so they kind of know, hey, let's take things down. Let's kind of examine it. So we have some character building. We have some philosophy as well too. And I think yeah, so a really good scene and really well. It fits with the pacing, very well done pacing of the movie.
Indeed, indeed. Summer, any more words you want to weigh in on this scene or no?
Y'all basically hit the nail on the head. Y'all covered it all.
Okay, nice. You're welcome. You're welcome.
I agree. I agree with everything.
Yeah. I love the following scene with Somerset though, like this little moment, a clarity moment, where you know what I mean. He kind of, well, really really picks up on what Mills is saying. So he takes the metronome and he throws it on the floor. It's just like,
Mm,
well, I
Yeah,
mean, you guys know what it
yeah,
means, right? It's just like he can't numb himself to the will anymore.
yeah.
He
It,
has
it
to
caused it
kind of
caused
face
a
it.
shift in him. It definitely did. Even though it may not have caused a shift in Mills at that point in time, but
yeah,
definitely Somerset.
Yeah. And the following scene is kind of the cliche kind of moment. Like, you always have the character moment where the hero is down and they have to pick themselves up and do some sort of act, sort of training act somewhat to pick himself back up. So in this case, he takes his trusty switchblade that we see throughout the film and he just throws it at his dad board. He keeps doing it, keeps doing it, keeps doing it. Like, I like it now, look at it now, but, like back then, I probably would have looked at it as, yeah, this is the whole kind of cliche moment where the character has to learn how to use a bow and arrow or use a
Yeah,
gun or something
I
like
felt
that.
for me, I felt it was more representation of his frustration, and because he's always a man in control of his emotions, but when he pelts that switchblade at that dartboard, you get that sense that he has to find a release. He has to find a way to get the anger and frustration and all of that stuff out of his system, and I think that's how he does it. At least that's what I got from it.
Yeah, you're right, you're right, you're right. And now we get to the final day by Sunday. Yay! So it starts off with John calling 911 and saying, I've gone and done it again. And then,
right.
well, the crime scene now, this would be for pride, right? So Somerset and Mills finds, well, this mutilated body of a woman. There's bandages on the skin. There's a phone stuck to one of her palms, and there's a bottle of pills, sleeping pills, sorry, glued actually to her palms though. And right
Hmm.
above her bed, is the word pride, right? And even her nose was cut off to spite her face, right? Yeah, which is really, really messed up, right?
Hmm.
Um, Afterwards, as they heading across to the precinct, I love this into just like blocking and just where the camera is. So it's Somerset pretty much telling Mills, here's what. I'm gonna stick around, I'm gonna help you solve this case, right? And as they enter the building, you see a taxi car pull up, that would stop. And then this character, this figure comes outside, right? And then we get one of my all-time favorite scenes in this movie, right? So this is where, you're hearing Somerset and Mills talking, and you're just hearing John Doe, saying, detective. And they keep talking, detective. And then they're talking again, and then you hear, detective! And then you look around, though, and then it's Kaiser Sose
Yeah.
/ Frank Underwood himself.
It speaks so much to the ordinariness of this man that he walks into a precinct covered in blood and not one police officer looks at him or sees him.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
He embodies what he is. He's John Doe. He made himself no one. He says, I am not, my name is not important or whatever at some point, I think.
He says that later,
Yeah, it's so insane. The station is packed with police officers. This man is the most wanted man in the city, and nobody sees
he just
him.
walks in normal, casual, right?
No one sees him.
Yeah.
I love it.
But let's talk about that scene for a bit, right? So for one thing, I love in terms of just the reveal, right? With he have a white shirt on, you're seeing blood on his on the shirt, of course. But if you look closely, there's blood on his hands and fingers, right? So let's look at it now. It's like, wow, you know what I mean? I love what he says. You're looking for me, like real nonchalant now. Oh yes, and also points for the bandages that he has on his fingertips, by the way, which alludes, of course, to the intro sequence that we talked about earlier, right? But also too, and it's only like after the fact, like years after, I actually realized that going into this movie, people didn't even know who the killer was, So when you saw it was him, Oscar winner, sorry, because he won for Usual Suspects, right? Yeah, great performance nonetheless, right? Yeah, so I'd imagine people like kind of losing their minds when you see, oh, is this guy? Okay, what? Okay,
Yeah.
but yeah, when you look at it now, you
and-
kind of go in knowing that he is the killer. But yeah, at the time, that was a big bold move, and then, well, if you stick around a little bit with the end credits, you see the first credit you'll see is, well, his name as John.
That was
I'm like,
really smart.
wow.
That it never showed his name in the initial. Because back then they used to show everybody's information in the opening credits,
Yeah.
Right.
and you have to sit there and wait for that to finish. I'm so glad they stopped doing that.
And actually the actor who shall not be named. He actually told
For
us,
Frank
he's like,
Underwood.
"Hey, Frank Underwood. Yeah, Frank was like, don't put my name in the credits because you're saying from the time you do that, people will be watching out for me. If not,
Exactly.
Right.
So it was a very smart choice by him. And otherwise, the studio execs would be like, hey, we put his name, it's gonna pull people, get butts in the seats. But it just goes to show, very intelligent from both the internals and the externals as well too. So
Right.
so that, and I mean, just the scene itself, it is, I think, one of the best scenes in a very good movie. And I love that scene.
So Ricardo, any thoughts on Frank Underwood's reveal in the movie?
Yeah. So the Kaiser Sose scene is good. It's simple. Again, it you see little character moments. Great. Mills have a meltdown as usual. He
loses his mind. Though it's like, get on the floor, no, to the floor. Now he just goes off.
I'm sorry, Mills is the kind of police officer that in this day and age you don't want to bounce up in a traffic stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, indeed, right. So, of course, the big question in everybody's mind is, why would he just go into the precinct? Why would he give himself up so willingly, right? They bring in his lawyer. Okay, he talks about, I want to see my lawyer. The lawyer talks about, oh, well, there's two bodies left, right? Because, there's two murders that, haven't been revealed, right, at the moment, right? So he offers this deal. It's just like, all right, well, I will show you where the bodies are, and y'all could go ahead and arrest me. I'll plead insanity for this one. They hesitate, of course, and they're like, all right, well, we'll do it. So the idea, though, and I love this in the movie, right, where he says, well, just take me down. I'll take you to the place from 6 p.m. Like from exact 6 p.m. we're gonna head down to the spot though. And you just think, okay, well, he just kind of specific in terms of time though, but you'll get a little bit later as to why that is so important. as I flip the page here for a bit. Um, right, and a nice little piece of foreshadowing here. They say, well, the blood on his fingers, they were from, well, the woman whose nose he cut off,
Right.
and a yet undisclosed victim.
Right.
So we just kind of wondering, okay, well,
The
who is
guy,
this
the
victim
guy,
now? I love that.
the guy who plays lawyer. Who's he again? He looks familiar, but he's another character. I think
I don't
from
know.
the West Wing, I think.
Okay, well, as somebody who, yeah, shame on me, never really watching West Wing. I wouldn't know who it is, but I have seen him before in other shows. I should really look up
I,
who it is.
I will say this. We don't know who the final victim is at this point, but it's like Ricardo says in rewatching it. There are a couple moments where Mills talks about, oh, my wife this and my wife that in
Right.
conversation in those ending moments,
Yeah.
and he's referring to her a little more often than he normally would, and you
Right.
just you see what it is they're doing there, that she's on his
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, it's so brilliant. And now we get to actually one of the most profound moments in the movie. And this is where, well, John Doe talks. Well, he's in the back of the same car that Somerset and Miles are in. I know, like I say before, you're seeing this motorcade of police vehicles heading straight down to the spot now. And it looks very much like, that moment in Dark Knight that I mentioned earlier, right? And one thing I noticed, though, and it's one of those things that you kind of miss until, well, you watch it again. The rain is like completely gone from that point on. Like there's no more rain in this movie, right? And
Right.
that's one thing. Secondly, the spot itself where they go to, it's where they have these like high tension towers. It feels like this me watching it visually, right? Just kind of jumping a couple of scenes, right? There's a wide shot way to see this car going on the road, and you're just seeing these towers on either end. And to me, it's like one of those shots that if you are a cinematographer, you have to have this as like a reference photo. Like that is one of the best looking scenes I've ever seen in a movie, period. Like the cinematography for that scene alone is just like, even just the idea of having your final set piece be in like the bleakest area ever, the most, dismal, distant place ever. I love that,
Yeah.
right? But visually, how I saw it, I may be wrong, but that's how I interpret it. It always feels like, okay, you're leaving the griminess of the city, but it's like all the griminess is just this like removed all of a sudden, right? And now it's just all about these characters that involve here. It's these few characters. It's not about the city anymore. It's not about the characters who died and people who hate the city. Now it's about these characters here. And we just pick like it's almost like the final showdown basically. So as opposed to having it in a town now, you're having it in the most deserty area that you could find. But you have these foundations now, these towers that almost look like like a city itself. That's just how I see it. Anywho, so before all that now, before we get to the actual spot now, you have this great moment where, well, Frank Underwood really shows off his acting range here. And just to talk about his performance here, okay, yeah, his performance is brilliant, masterful in my opinion. You really do get the sense that, well, figuratively in the movie, he is literally the personification of evil in this movie here. And I just like that, it's kind of cliche. Well, I should say it has become a cliche now. The whole idea that, he was more or less given this assignment by God. And, what I mean? Like,
Right.
remember the movie Frailty? Great movie. What I mean?
Yes.
Like, God assigned him this duty to kill these people. You know what I mean?
Although they were right.
Yeah.
In Frailty, they were right.
Yeah, he was right. He was right. Yeah, but what I mean, and I love how it's just this back and forth between, well, mainly Mills and John. Somerset is just like, all right,
Listening,
I
yeah.
kind of get where you're coming from, and Mills is like, dude, you just off your rocker, you're like, you really believe this kind of stuff, and John is just like, well, well, what about that guy? Well, the guy who they found with Slot, sorry, right? He was a pedophile and he did all these evil things. And what
Yeah.
about this person? I mean, and yet the world, well, he uses an analogy, you see, like how the city would just kind of watch them do these heinous acts and not even respond. You know what I mean? They just kind of let go. So he feels like he's doing it for a purpose, right? But I like where Somerset kind of goes and says, his approach is like, dude, you really think you do the right thing? Like, how do you feel genuinely when you're doing this, Trent? And to John, it's just like, dude, it don't even matter because, yo, the only history books are going to be talking about me. Especially when with this little surprise I have with y'all. Like, this is going to, this is going to make me infamous any day. So I just love that
Right.
he uses that as a counter
Yeah,
to Somerset's views.
and you
Yeah.
will be remembered. He tells Mills
Yeah.
that as well. You will be
Yeah.
remembered. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that scene. Ricardo, any thoughts on just that little convo between
Yeah.
the
This
two?
is the scene I was talking about with respect to being quite meta, not with respect to the actor, but more to do with just the film itself. Like a lot of people just borrow from this film, take a lot from this film, copy
Yes,
from
you're
this
right.
film,
Yeah.
copy from the villain, copy from the characters, the aesthetics. That's that there's a lot of that with that now. Yeah, it's a great scene with them bouncing off each other. Somerset outsmarting them in that sense with saying, hey, you're kind of a bullshitter, but here's how.
Yeah.
With respect to the
Yeah.
whole, you actually seem to enjoying this and
Yeah.
showing off blah,
Yes.
blah, blah, and all these other things,
Yeah.
right?
And
Yeah, but
there's such a twisted logic to everything that John has seen, eh? But you can
right,
kind of buy it because of, well,
right.
Frank's performance, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it follows the classic like well, it's something I always argue for, which is the classic, a good villain needs a good argument, or at least a good villain needs a good sophistry, right? And they make that work. You really get the sense way, boy. These people deserve it, and this man is on the right track. He could like totally understand, this dude being liked or being lionized by the public in some ways. No?
Yeah. He did kind of lose. He did lose, but when you talk about, oh, look, what about well, the gluttony victim? So
Right.
fat. What I mean, when you
Yeah,
go
yeah,
outside, it's like so petty when you talk about it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's why you choose to
But
kill him, like literally torturing him like that.
yeah, but you made the talking point about how somebody like Mills would have like make fun of him, stuff like that. He taps into that aspect of our weaknesses in society. That
Yes.
that
Yes. Yes.
person.
Yeah.
He's that
Yeah.
guy. He's that guy, right? Yeah. So
Right. Right. Julian, any thoughts on that convo scene? Between John Doe and Somerset and Mills.
We're making a lot of Dark Knight allusions, and it kind of reminds me where you in Dark Knight you don't get the backstory of Joker. Joker just kind of
right.
becomes the embodiment of chaos, where you have John Doe. He's, as I said, he's kind of the embodiment of I guess evil and a kind of a twisted quote unquote godly justice.
Right.
So we kind of it plays into the legacy of it with the kind of the blank slate character. And talking about legacy, Summer and I recently, like a month ago, we discussed the movie Unknown Origins, Secret Origins, which was a Se7en movie, but instead of killing people according to the seven deadly sins, he was killing them according to superhero origins.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
So
You
from
guys
this,
should definitely
you could
check
see,
that out.
yeah, that's a good one.
That's really
Yeah, so
dope,
you can
though.
see how so many films, and not just only psychological thrillers, have pulled from this and tried to replicate it, and very few have really come close. So really brilliant acting by the actor, a really wonderful tense scene as well too, and like Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs, John Doe isn't in the movie for very long.
Yeah.
He's kind of
Yeah,
like
he comes in like what the third
he's
act of the movie, and he
yeah,
steals
he's
it.
still at the
Steals.
movie, and yeah, um, yeah, it's kind of like Bruce the Shark and Jaws. The
Yeah.
less you see of the villain, is the more impactful. And then when you go Hannibal and he's all over the place, it's like, yeah, it's not the same. So really brilliant scene, and it really cements the legacy of Se7en and what it meant for the entire film industry going forward.
Yeah. But just to touch on that quickly before we get to your thoughts, Summer. Um, I would imagine though, like the writer behind this, the people who made this film, really had to take a calculated risk with this one. Eh? I mean, not just with bringing in, the John Doe killer so late in the movie, but literally telling the audience, "Yo, you're gonna remember this, You were gonna remember this for the rest of your lives." Way that like when I was watching, I was like, "Yo, that's incredibly risky, though," because it may not have played out the way it did, and who knows how we would have reacted to it. From that point on, we probably would have think, "Oh, this is one of the dumbest, almost laughable moments in film history." But no, they were so confident in this
Yep.
climax, just blowing everybody away that they just telling the audience, "Yeah, y'all gonna remember this,
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that. Summer, any thoughts on that convo scene, by the way?
I mean that's where we the audience come in, as Ricardo say, you want to know the why of it, and the why has to be compelling enough that you as an audience member can look past the insanity of it all, because that's the thing. Brad Pitt kept saying, or Mills kept saying that, oh, you're just crazy, you're just insane. But you could see Somerset could understand the logic of the insanity, because an insane person never thinks they're insane. Mills says
Right,
that. Do,
right.
do you think you're
Yeah,
insane?
yeah.
Do you sit there saying, wow, I'm batshit crazy,
I love
and
that line. Yeah.
and it's never like that. It's from his point of view, everything he's doing is with purpose, everything is logical, and he's the hero in his own story, he's not the villain. I love that. I love just seeing the three of them and their different viewpoints of what is happening or what has happened. It's just a perfect triangle there.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Yeah. So now, well, all right. So now the whole convoy stops, right? Stops at a particular point. It's the area where John, tells, Somerset and Mills, okay, this is where you're gonna find the last two buddies, right? So they exit the car. And I love this moment. I actually forgot this was in the movie, right? Where this delivery van shows up, right? That's all. So the delivery van shows up, and well, Somerset being Somerset is like, okay, I'll handle this. He has, well, they have radio contact basically. Well, he has radio contact basically with this guy on a chopper, right? I love where the van, well, more or less he just puts up his gun, like telling the guy to stop, right? Guy comes out, he's like, I'm here to deliver this package. He told me to be here 7 o'clock on the dot. I like that. Just like about a few seconds before that, John asks, I think it's either Somerset or
Yeah,
Mills, what's the
Somerset,
time?
what's the
Yeah,
time?
he asks
Yeah,
what's the time.
yeah.
It's like, it's now 7. Why? It's like, no, just want to know. I love that. And even there's a little shot before that, I think it's either before or after, when you see a dead dog, though. That's a little piece of dark humor where John says, I didn't do that.
Right.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Bravo. Round of applause. I love that. Perfect line, right? But it's the whole timing of it too that just blew my mind looking at it today. Is the hour-long trip it took from the precinct to that point. You know what I mean? Just John knowing, okay, these guys need to be here at this time, even if it's like a minute after whatnot. This delivery guy have to show up at this particular time. So even when he's all locked up, he has his plan, already timed, already calculated, and it just shows just how just how effective this character is, right? And then we get to the infamous scene, by the scene of all scenes, the what's in the box scenes. I'll just tell you all one time, I didn't even write any notes for this. I was glued to the screen from the moment I saw it was going to happen, from the moment um, that Somerset uses his switchblade and opens the box and
Yeah.
sees what's inside. From there, I didn't even reach to my book. I didn't even reach for my pen. I was glued to this. In terms of editing, framing, timing, acting, everything, this is pitch perfect in my opinion. I just love everything about it, from the way how Somerset reacts, you know what I mean? And he
Yeah.
says, you know what I mean? He's telling the guy in chopper, you know what I mean? Move away, move away. And
Right.
and he's telling Mills, you know what I mean? You don't want to come here, you don't want to come here. And sorry, and oh gosh, John knowing what's going on, that's when he slowly reveals what he
Yeah.
did. And he talked about how, he envied the love that, the relationship that he has with his wife. And
Right.
it shows up one morning and, I try to play daddy or whatever it is. Or I try to
Yeah.
play the nice husband or whatever it is, right? And it's just slowly, slowly, slowly until poor Mills loses his mind. Or it's like, come on, what's in the box? What's in the box? Come on. And it's like, only, you know what I mean? It's just, and then when he says it though, it's only your wife's head.
Right.
That's when it's like, oh my God. And still to this day though, it's a nail biting moment though, and so incredibly tense though. And yeah, not surprising, Mills pulls out his gun and he's about to aim it at at John, right? And I love where Somerset says, Mills, if you do this, he will win.
Yeah.
And I just going off of memory here, and John just keeps taunting him even further. and you could just see the pain in Mills's eyes. Though it gets even worse when he tells him, she was pregnant. Oh, he didn't know that, did he? And that's when he
Yeah.
fires at him one shot. That's it.
Yeah.
So the one note that I wrote down before we get to your thoughts on that scene, guys, is that he fires six shots at him. That's all I wrote down. He fires 6 shots at John Doe.
Right.
Yeah, I counted it, and it's like if it was 7, it would have been like, that's a little too on the nose. But just 6 shots, 1 shot to the head, and just 5 to the body, perfect in my opinion. So yeah, one of the greatest scenes ever put to film, one of the most tense scenes ever put to film. Yeah, this shook me first time I saw it. It still shook. It shook me when I saw it for this review here. And yeah, boy, it's not much more I can say, guys. Ricardo, any thoughts on
Yeah.
what's the
Right.
box
So
scene?
so this whole scene is forget that it have another little character actor in this. There's Dr. Cox himself, John C. McGinley in this.
Yes.
Oh yeah, right,
Yeah,
right.
SWAT team
Right.
leader.
And another thing that took away from this scene, I just watched it back, is that they still have the thing that they was explaining in Fight Club, the whole quick one frame flash thing. It's in this.
Yes, yeah.
If you look back at it,
Alright.
because
It's Gwyneth Paltrow's face.
get good Paltrow's face, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So that's like I would. I didn't know that was a thing he actually practiced.
Yeah, that was cool.
Great scene, great edit to the movie. It basically they had to wrap up the final 2 sins, envy and wrath. That was perfect. So he's envy, and Brad Pitt character is rat. Mills is rat. And I love that. They set that up really, really well. You can tell that that is when he set his plan up from when he put the gun to his head to leading up all to this. It's like, hey, how are we going to get the 77 sin? Yeah, Brad Pitt to go and be the 7th sin. That's perfect. Because you mentioned, throughout the film, he's a person who can't control himself. That's the whole point. It's anger. It's anger, but bad anger, unjustified anger. That's basically the sin of rat. They make it work. That's the wrap up. It's like, well, would.
Sorry to cut you there, but even when I was watching this, I was just like, yeah, shoot this mofo dread.
Right,
exactly. You seeing this guy taunting you like this? Nah. And it, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you hear Somerset like, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
So I love how the movie just kind of plays with emotions like that. But go on.
Yeah. They have Somerset in control of the situation when he said, John Doe is now in complete control of this. I forget what the line, but he has something along the lines of he basically he have complete control of the situation.
Yes.
And he said, look, throw your gun down. He tried to de-escalate the whole situation, but it didn't work. And well, he gets 6 bullets to the ass, right? So, to me, he should get 6 bullets to the relay, but whatever. This is a really, really good wrap up to the end. Not as strong as this other movie, no. The other movie was in
The Usual Suspects.
Yeah, Usual Suspects.
Yeah, The Usual Suspects. I mean, okay, so let's talk briefly about Usual Suspects. Back then, yes, knowing that he invented the story was mind blowing, and this one was, if you were watching closely, okay, pick up that. So it kind of leave you, you kind of watch like, wow, that's so clever, but this one is just all tension. You could cut the tension with a knife with the scene.
Right. The only thing I'll say is that I felt they shouldn't have had him do too much of an exposition dump in this. So like, I'm envy and you're right. I wouldn't have do that. That's the only.
You would just leave it for the audience to realize.
Right. I would have it be like I would just have him like say little lines like, I was jealous of you or something like that. Like, just imply that he's envy so the audience could figure it out later. But whatever.
Yeah, but for argument's sake, remember, because he feels like he's destined to do this. He's kind of like, well, yes, this is what I did, and this is why I must do it because I'm serving his will or whatever. You know what I mean? I kind of get it. It's a grandeur, delusion of grandeur.
Exactly. Right. So it's just whatever. It's like my little nitpick, and again, my morning quarterback the scene. But I enjoy the scene. It's great. The ending because where the sun, the real golden hour shots at the ending there. Great little shots. Just chemistry. Yeah. Oh, what's his name?
Oops.
Yeah, Franco with the angle, just have him in this kind of one shot, one side, this sun on his face.
I love that.
Yeah. These great shots guys leading up to the end. And then the final, you'll see that how it lead up to it. That's great. Great ended.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Julian, sorry, go on.
Great. Yeah, then right now.
We'll get to the closer. We'll get to
closer. Close up with this great little quote now, and how you're selective knowledge now. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So Julian, any thoughts on the what's in the box scene?
Yeah, I actually would would actually put this and scene even before Usual Suspects. I love Usual Suspects, but I
Right,
think with Usual Suspects, when you rewatch it, you kind of like the kind of the aha. But I think
right.
this scene, as much as even when you rewatch it, you still have that emotional impact with, as you're saying, with the framing, with the acting, with the build up. And the thing is, you know it's coming, and you still go through all the emotional beats. You know, um, yeah, and it's just really well done. And one thing I will say is that usually when you want to have a scene that is kind of tight and tense, you usually have it in a very small, very tight, very enclosed space. But when you have to create tension in such a wide, grand, open space, it really
Yes,
takes quite a skill to do it. It's like, you Hitchcock with your North by Northwest. How do you make
yeah,
a plane chase
Yeah.
a man be scary? So I think it's just really well done, just very meticulously done, and some of the best acting in the movie. Some of the best acting by Brad Pitt,
Yeah.
John
What's
Doe,
the part?
just everything really comes together. Yeah, and I'm thinking, imagine as an audience member after seeing five gruesome bodies. I mean, you're expecting like, well, okay, go and show you, well, look this body and that body. I think nobody would have been expecting, well, okay, the villain is going to be
yeah,
one of the
yeah.
victims, and then Mill. No, I think anybody would have been expecting that twist. So just
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
it's mind blowing.
For real, for real. Summer, any
Yeah, I mean,
thoughts on the on the what's in the box scene? I know you love this scene, right?
I mean, it's perfection in every way, and it's one of the things that is very difficult to pull off. Julian mentioned, usually you'll see something like that in a very claustrophobic space. Another thing is it's usually not that brightly lit. You get to see everything so clearly what's happening, and Brad Pitt, I mean, just the pain that he's in, and you are there, and as an audience member. I remember watching it and I remember hoping he didn't shoot him.
Right,
I was, yeah, because I wanted him to suffer. I didn't want him to get away because that's what exactly happened. He won. In the end, he
right.
won,
Yeah,
and I was hoping. And in rewatching it, you get to see how Mills never really learned anything from Somerset. He never, all these times he would tell him, you need to get a handle on your emotions and you need to, think things through a little bit more. You see where John Doe's meticulousness, you have to wonder how long he had been watching them for to know who would have gone after the van and who would have stayed with him and just how this entire thing would unfold. It's terrifying to think how much of a profiler John Doe himself was.
right.
So
They mentioned, he could just say how the photographer part comes back. He said where he could get information from police officers in the precinct.
yes,
Right. So he
and just
mentioned
Yeah,
that.
I
Yeah.
love
just
that.
the fact that, like, I was actually reading some trivia as well, and I saw where they said the scene where they were in the leather shop, looking at the stuff, and the guy in the shop tells them that the guy who had the thing built, he had a limp, and
Right,
you can see a man limp past the window,
right,
kind
All
of
right,
alluding
right,
to the
right.
fact that John Doe was watching them all that time.
right.
So you just to watch everything come together in this man's favor is just terrible. But at the same time, I don't think anybody here would not have pulled the trigger. Honestly, like I don't think any of us would not have pulled the trigger in
Right.
that situation. I have to wonder even if Somerset would not have pulled the trigger if the situation was reversed. So it's just brilliant. It's just overly just perfect.
Yeah, I mean, not much more we could say, right? And now we get the final scene in the movie, right? Well, the denouement, right, of the movie, right? And like look at it now, it reminds me a lot of like the ending of well, another classic, neo-noir mystery film, Chinatown, right? One of my all-time favorite movies, where it's like, okay, the villain has been vanquished now, but
Don't
why
tell me
why
too
why
much.
do I feel unhappy? Why do I feel like this was a sorry?
No, I was just gonna tell you, don't spoil anything for me because I actually have that on my watch list. I just watched over One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I want to watch Chinatown. I've never
Oh,
seen
okay,
it.
okay.
I've
Yeah,
never
yeah.
seen
You need to watch Chinatown.
Yeah,
You
I
need
know.
to
I'm
watch it.
sorry, I've never seen it.
It has been voted as one of the, well, sorry, I think it is voted as the best screenplay ever written.
Oh, Okay.
Yeah, they have that up there actually, but yeah, it's a masterpiece in my opinion, right? And it has a twist, which you know it has a twist. That's all I'll say, right?
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, the ending itself has this bleakness to it, where it's like, okay, the villain has been vanquished, but why does the hero still feel like shit? You know what I mean? It
Right.
feels like nothing has been solved basically. You know what I mean? Like I lost, right? So you get that with the end where, well, the last shot of I was always gonna say Brad Pitt, of Mills, me in the police car being driven off, and just the pain in his face too. I mean, jeez.
Yeah,
But
he's done.
yeah, he's done by that. That's it, right? But yeah, we have a little convo scene between, well, the police chief and Somerset, right? So he's like, you know what I mean? Where will you be? You know what I mean? And he's like, around, right? And the movie could have ended like that, right? And I think actually initially in the first edit or whatnot, well, for test screenings, right, the first run for it, that was the end of the movie, right? You know what I mean? Just the characters walking off, heading to the cars or whatnot. But because they were so shook by the climax of it, they're like, all right, you kind of need to put something to kind of alleviate that fear, or that shock, basically. So that's where we have this Ernest Hemingway quote, which is, "The world is a fine place and worth fighting for." I love that it's just like a little piece of narration, because that's the only piece of narration you get in the movie. Morgan Freeman's character saying this. I like what he says, "I agree with the second part." And that's it. That's the end of the movie. I
Right.
love that in terms of just, yeah, well, from everything that you've experienced over the past 2 hours, here's a little glimmer of hope in the movie, right? And it's a really powerful message as well too. But at the same time, you could kind of understand people kind of looking at it like, yeah, but at the same time, the world is still messed up, so it is what it is, right? So I love that the movie just keeps its bleakness to the very end, even when it gives you just a little bit of hope. It's still like, nope, the world's bleak. Time to move on. The end. Right? Ricardo, any words on that final scene, that final shot?
Yeah, no, you find that little scene with it. It's a good scene you reference to. It's Hemingway, but he talk about he agree with the first half and not the second. I like that. Oh, sorry, he agree with
The
he
second part.
disagree. Yeah, he disagree with the first part and he agrees with with the second. I like that. Uh, it does lead up to second. It's like, look, sorry, I was right, but I was right. Sorry, but he said, look, give him some time, and then this is the start of your career. Unfortunately, we're not sure what happened to you going forward. But I like that. So it's a good ending. And then it have a real clever. Well, we'll get to the yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh yes, one thing I just want to mention quickly, though, before we get to your thoughts on the final scenes, Julian and Summer, the closing credits in particular. Like, if your guys notice, it runs reverse, right?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
from bottom to
Yes,
up, right?
yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Now, I'm gonna get film nerdy here now. That is a reference to a classic noir film that I highly recommend you all see, called Kiss Me Deadly.
Right.
It is one of the best noir films ever. I actually own it on Criterion Blu-ray. And yeah, the intro for it, well, the opening title sequence, you see the credits roll from the bottom of the screen. Sorry, from the top of the screen, sorry, to the bottom. And even Alex Cox referenced it in, well, the classic cult film Repo Man, which I also own on Blu-ray. So yeah, that was
Yes.
like a nice little thing. So yeah, like in terms of what you saw in the movie, it's almost like just the world is kind of flipped over. You know, like you're seeing the ugliness that's underneath. So
Yeah.
just ending the film like, yeah, we have to still show you visually our perception of the world in this movie, not in real, but in this movie. I love that. Summer, any thoughts on the final scene in the movie?
Um, no, I do like you said, there is a glimmer of hope. And for me, the hope lies with Somerset, because there's almost an ambiguity to, he says around, and you feel like it means that because of everything that's happened, he won't quit, he won't
Right.
resign.
Yes.
That's at least what I choose to take from it. I always choose to take the happier ending. I did the same thing with Inception. Um,
Me
yeah,
too.
so even though it's an ambiguous ending, I did like that, and yes, he does say, he agrees with the second half. It's very nihilistic, and at the same time, there's that optimism. There's that little thread of optimism. I also like that they kind of tell you that the cops say, we'll take care of him, we'll take good care of him.
Yeah.
So you have to wonder if they kind of covered up how everything went down. So they don't
Yeah,
tell us
think about
that.
that.
They don't tell us that, but I'm assuming with the way cops treat each other like a brotherhood, that they would have found some way to help Mills out of the situation. God forbid he ends up in prison for what he did. So
Right, right.
yeah, there's this sense of hope for the Somerset character. At least I think the Mills character learns a very hard lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy. And you feel so sorry that he had to learn it that way.
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
He could have just solved the case and stop the bad guy, but things happen, right? Julian, any thoughts on just on that final scene in the movie?
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to everything being so very well pre-thought and planned, and it's almost like the audience was put through this kind of psychological experiment, and
Hmm.
that and at the end they were like, well, okay, we yeah, we presented such this bleak world, but we don't want you to go away from it, with a kind of dark perception, like, hey, yeah, things are really messed up, but even within that, there is still a glimmer of hope. So hold on to that. Don't give up, even though the world can be really really dark and really crappy. So I think it's uplifting, because I'm a kind of hope springs eternal kind of person. So
Right.
I'm glad that after going through this, I mean this movie is not a sit down and watch with some popcorn and enjoy and laugh with friends kind of. This movie is a kind of dark soul skating kind of movie. So I'm glad they realize that, okay, we know what we put you through, audience member. So after we put you through all of that, we'll give you a little something, we'll give you a lollipop after going to the getting a root canal at the dentist.
Right.
So I
I
I I,
love that.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah. But just using that just to share my final thoughts on reading, right? For me, I see the show as one of those movies that you just sit down on a rainy day, like when you're cooped up at home, you can't go outside. It has that really cold feel to it. You know what I mean? You just kind of sit down and you just kind of just get immersed in everything, and the atmosphere around you just kind of helps. We amplify things, right? This is easily Fincher's bleakest, darkest work to date. And I mean, we saw like what Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Right.
We saw Fight Club to extent. You know what I mean? Like it's dark, but it has this cynical, satirical vibe to it. You know what I mean? And speaking of Fight Club, though, like a lot of people, like myself included, would say Fight Club is Fincher's best work, right? Because, well, I mean, it was a cultural phenomenon. I mean, you could not escape it, right? But given just thinking about it for having not seen Se7en for so much years, right? I could kind of put this right up there as well too. You know what I mean? Like right now, I would say both of them are up there as to like my all-time favorite, or I should say best David Fincher film. Like I can't really pick one over the other. Like Fight Club was really where Fincher showed off his talents, right? Where he, embraced the, late 90s filmmaking and just had a dope story to go with it. But here with Se7en, it was like taking just familiar genres, the mystery film, the crime drama, the police procedural, the detective film, right? You know what I mean? Stuff of staples of American cinema, right? But just, and of course, the serial killer thing, right? And just twisting it and making it all contorted and just weird and messed up, right? But having this underlying message that yes, it's dark out there, it's bleak out there, it's messed up, but there is some kind of hope there. So it just takes elements of like from the best films, of those genres and just mix it up into this one here. The acting is phenomenal throughout. I mean, I forgot how great Brad Pitt was in this. Morgan Freeman, who just came off, with a Academy Award win, he shines in this. Frank Underwood, I mean, he still kills it as John Doe boy. Like this is one of his best performances. I mean, above everything else, say what we want about him. I mean, he is John Doe in my opinion, and just that ending alone, that climax, I should say, is such a gut punch, though. I'm still shocked that they actually go away with this in '95. Like mainstream Hollywood go away with this in '95. So yeah, I love this film. I think this is his best film. Like I would say, because Fight Club is kind of hard to categorize or put in a box. This one is exactly what it is. It's a mixture of mystery, horror. Yes, it has horrific stuff, but not technically a horror, right? But
Hmm.
yeah, it even has moments in it that will scare the most jaded of horror fans, and that shows how great this movie is. So yeah, not much more I could see. I'm giving this a very, I'm giving this a 5 out of 5. See this movie before you die. This is one of the best films you will ever see. I can't see that this is his best film because, like I see, it's right up there with Fight Club. But yeah, this hands down is one of his best films, bar none. Like if I had to choose between this and Fight Club, yeah, it'd be 7 all the way for me.
Right.
And I was just so amazed at how well this movie holds up 25 years from when it was released. You know what I mean? So yeah, it will continue to shock and well, hopefully, inspire filmmakers and whatnot to just come up with really dope, creative ways to touch on just the bleakness of human existence. And I'll stop right here. 5 out of 5. Yeah, see this movie before you die. Ricardo, last words of rating on Seven.
Yeah, for me, a 9 out of 10. It's more or less almost flawless for me. It's just so good pacing, just dialogue, great. Everybody characterization works. Subversion. They mess. It's such a great detective story at the same time. That's cover all the bases. It's not a movie I love on its own, it's simply because I didn't grow up with it. It's just a movie I only watch a couple of times. Yeah, you know it by osmosis, cultural osmosis, but it's not a movie that I personally love in that sense. But other than that, it's great. Like if it was in the right time and I would love it, I'll show up a lot more. Everybody is great in this. Covers it just cover great philosophy and psychology really well. Love it. So great movie for me.
Right. Julian, last words and rating on Seven.
Yeah. I mean, Seven. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love the noir genre. Is one of my favorite. I love detective stories. I love psychological thrillers. I love horror. So this movie kind of like all my boxes get ticked twice. Fantastic performances, wonderful pacing, wonderful framing of shots. So many wonderful twists. The movie it's an experience. I love it, and yeah, it is a perfect 10 out of 10 for me.
Nice. I like how you said you would experience, but yeah, this movie, literally takes you into hell, you know what I mean? And then just puts you like right above it, like right, you know what I mean? Right on top again for you to just kind of figure yourself out afterwards, right? So, yeah, boy. Summer, last words and rating on Seven.
Well, I'm right there with Julian. It ticks all the boxes for me as well. I would put Seven above Fight Club as well, for just because of my genre preferences. Fight Club it falls in a different category for me, even though there's similar themes and that sort of thing. But yes, Seven, and Seven would be my favorite Fincher film. I now that I think about it, stellar acting, cinematography, editing. It's just one of those movies that you just know you're gonna watch it. You can watch it every 10 years down the road, and you're not really gonna find flaws with it. I would give it like a 9.5 out of 10. I really can't. The 0.5 is just leaving me space if I ever see anything that makes me change my mind. But it's a near flawless film in my opinion.
Right. And last things last, though, before we get to, just shout ourselves out and whatnot. I think this is the movie, you know what I mean, outside of Alien 3, which of course Fincher doesn't want anything to do with. This is where like we kind of realize that Fincher films are always gonna have some sort of darkness to it. So even if his movies like, The Social Network, you know what I mean? There's something dark in that film too, you know what I mean? Even though it's
Yeah.
it's primarily a drama. But yeah, I don't know, like every time I go into a Fincher film, and this was a movie that really started for me, I kinda know to expect, okay, something's dark or bleak is happening. Even in stuff like, Curious Case of Benjamin Button is like, yeah, there's something going on that is a little bit off there. So I don't know. I guess that's just a trend with Fincher and his approach to the films that he makes. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm just glad. And just last thing I want to say. I don't know if you guys have anything else to say about Fincher and his work after this movie. I'm really glad that he took the opportunity to make a film like this. Like he could have just given up, been another Alan Smithy, and not do anything because of what happened with Alien 3. But he was just like, nah, boy, I make so much music videos. I can't just quit just like that. You know what I mean? And he got a chance for this movie, and sky was the limit, right? So, last words. Anything you want to say about Fincher's work after this movie? Or not?
I mean, I I absolutely love Gone Girl.
Me
Yeah.
too. That
And
was
for
one of my
me,
favorites of the decade.
yeah, and for
Remember?
me,
Yeah.
so Zodiac. Even I mean, I think the girl with the dragon tattoo.
Yeah.
For
Sorry
me,
to cut you there, but
I'm.
but as I said, Zodiac.
Mhm.
Many people will fight me down and say Zodiac is his best film, though. But because I haven't
Yeah,
seen Zodiac in a
probably.
while, though, like I
Yeah.
can't see that for sure. But
It's a
I
little
don't.
too worthy for me. I don't know if that's the right word. Wordy is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think the length kills it, but I understand
Yeah,
why
that's yeah,
it,
that's
it needs to be
it's a
long. It needs to
little
be long, but
too
you know,
it's a little too much for
yeah,
me. It's kind of like a Stephen King novel where I love Stephen King, but the man could talk like spend 5 pages talking about a lamp, you know. And Zodiac has a little bit of that in it for me. But like Gone Girl, the girl with the dragon tattoo remake, even though I definitely prefer Numi Rapace, is that the original
yeah,
actress?
yeah. The
Yeah,
original one.
yeah.
I'm in the same camp as you. Yeah,
Yeah, I prefer her in the role, but I have to say it's a solid remake as remakes go. Yeah, I'm a fan. What else is there to say? But I think we all are. I'm a fan of the man, and whatever he comes with next, yeah, I'm gonna be there.
yeah. Julia, any last words on Fincher's work after this movie here?
Yeah, like some, I'm a fan. Gone Girl, Fight Club. I think he's done like some really outstanding work. I even forgot I mentioned Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Yeah, and there is, as you said, like even in his kind of lighter films, there is this undercurrent of bleakness, and I don't know, I can appreciate that in movies, and I like he does movies that do make you think, that there is like a philosophy behind it, so there is a depth to it. So I enjoy that, and I wouldn't say he's one of my. I think I would say he directed some of my favorite all-time films, but I'm not sure if I would say he's one of my all-time favorite directors. But I do enjoy his work. I
Yeah.
must say that.
Right, right, right. Well, I forgot to mention too, guys. We keep talking about Fincher and killers and all that kind of stuff. Mindhunter, what I mean, a show that he
Yes,
helped produce
yes,
as well.
Right.
absolutely.
Great
Yeah.
Yeah.
show. If you haven't seen this show, guys, you need to. It's only 2 seasons. I'm praying that we get a third one. I hope it doesn't get me too like House of Cards did. 'Cause I was enjoying House of Cards, and then Frank Underwood now. So
Right.
anyway, Ricardo, any quick thoughts on Fincher's career after
Yeah.
Seven?
No, yeah, I like most of this dude's movies going hard. Yeah, I say Gone Girl and whatnot. Bro, well, Good Dragon Tattoo, which I'm in the camp that actually prefer his version. Um,
All right, fair enough.
uh, yeah, Social Network is a great film. I forget he do Benjamin Button completely. Zodiac is
I
a
know, right? Like
Zodiac is
people don't
yeah,
bring up
Zodiac
that
is a
movie
movie.
these days, though. And Brad Pitt was it? He was great in
Yeah,
that. Uh,
yeah.
you know, yeah.
Zodiac is a movie I like but don't love. As I say, it's a little too right. As I say, it's a little too on the procedural end of things, so
Mm.
it really flows well. People forget that he do Panic Room, Jared. Uh,
Oh my gosh, and I really
yeah,
enjoyed that movie. I did not
yeah,
realize that was
Same
Fincher.
here.
right. And then
Wow.
just a bunch of just a bunch of like thing. He did a movie back in the days. Now, okay, so now open up the IMDb.
And
He
he
did a
did the
movie that I
game, didn't he?
the
Yes,
game,
yeah.
right?
This
There's a
was
movie that I
this was
would give.
Yes.
between Seven and Fight Club.
Yeah, this
I
is a
I
movie I
enjoy
would
the
give
game,
a
but like my
rewatch.
argument with the game is that because of the twist, like once you see it happen, like I
Right,
only saw it once, but I don't know if I'll enjoy it because I know the twists that comes
right,
up. But yeah,
right. Yeah, it's one of those. Entirely dependent on that. But I have to give that a rewatch and see how if it holds up or how much of it does hold up. But
yeah,
yeah, he has a great career and a great oeuvre. The man truly really fantastic and talented director in my opinion. So yeah, and we got true gem with this one in my
for
opinion.
real.
Just just Elon Tree, right? Elon Tree fuck things up, right? Sadly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like
Yeah,
like we say,
yeah,
thankfully that did not
yeah,
do well. It derailed
yeah.
his career, but at least he got back on
Right,
course, right? So
right.
yeah. All right. So with all that being said, Julian, where can we find you online?
You can find me at redmangoreviews.com. We're also Red Mango Reviews on Facebook, and I am Redman Writer on Instagram.
All right, Summer, where can we find you online?
You can find me on YouTube at Movie Junkie for Life, and Facebook at Movie Junkies Continued, and as well as redmangareviews.com.
Nice. Ricardo, where can we find you online?
Yeah, I'm Passat, RABDDY, that's at Aramedi on Twitter, and you can just type in Ricardo Medina on Facebook.
You could find me on Twitter as well. Just look for Bear Beat Bailey. On Instagram, you could find me at Bears Beats and Bailey. On Facebook, just look for my name, Matthew Bailey, along with the Legally Black blog, official fan base. We find a link to this podcast here, this episode of Retrospect Reviews, including the past 24 episodes, and of course, the Bears Beats and Bailey podcast, which I do with Ricardo. So yeah, guys, thanks so much for coming through. You know what I mean? We covered a great film here, which surprisingly still holds up. I know we had a couple of options. You know what I mean? We had Goodfellas, you know what I mean, which turned 30. You know what I mean? Around this time here, there was also this god awful Showgirls movie.
Oh, God.
But but I don't know. I really have no intention of rewatching that movie again, though.
Same.
Yeah, but guys, you know what I mean?
Everybody had AIDS and shit. So.
You know. But yeah, if you have seen Se7en, folks, you know, feel free to let us know what you thought about it. Do you think it's just the most messed up movie out there? Believe me, there's worse. And do you think it still holds up to this day? And yeah, that's pretty much about it. So once again, guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whenever this is. This was Matthew Bailey and Julien Neaves. Thanks for coming through once again.
Okay, thanks for having me. See you guys.
Yeah, and Sommerleigh Pollonais, thanks so much for coming through.
Always a pleasure.
And of course, Ricardo, thanks for coming through.
Yeah, no problem. Cool.
And this has been another episode of Retrospect Reviews. Until the next one, take care, stay safe, in and out. Peace.